Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 1. This book chronicles the speeches delivered by Moses. These weren't just casual remarks. They were carefully crafted addresses, given while the Israelites were encamped in the land of Moab. Their camp was near the town of Suf, nestled in the desert east of the Jordan River. The geographical context is crucial. To one side lay the town of Haran, while in the opposite direction were the towns of Tophel, Laban, Hazroth, and Dizahab. Imagine the vastness of the desert, dotted with these settlements, each with its own story. Prior to this moment, Moses had led the Israelites to victory against significant adversaries. He had defeated Sihon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, a pivotal victory that opened up the path eastward. Furthermore, he had also vanquished King Og of Bashan, a formidable ruler who divided his time between the strategic strongholds of Ashtaroth and Edrei, depending on the season, commanding respect and inspiring fear. It's a stark reminder that while the journey from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, by way of Mount Seir, typically took only 11 days, these addresses weren't delivered until 40 years after the exodus from Egypt. 40 years. A generation had lived and died in the wilderness. The weight of that history, the years of wandering and testing, added layers of meaning to Moses' words. The Lord had previously bestowed his laws upon Moses, intended for the people of Israel. It was on the first day of the 11th month that Moses initiated the exposition of these laws, commencing with a resonant declaration. People of Israel, remember our time at Mount Sinai. When we were encamped there, he reminded them, the Lord our God spoke to us, declaring that we had lingered there long enough. The time has come, the Lord had said, to leave this place and advance into the land that belongs to the Amorites and their neighbors, the Canaanites. This land, Moses elaborated, encompasses the Jordan River Valley, the hill country, the western foothills, the southern desert, the Mediterranean seacoast, the Lebanon mountains, and all the territory stretching as far as the Euphrates River. Picture this panoramic view, the land promised to their forefathers. I hereby grant you this land, the Lord affirmed, just as I swore to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now you must rise and seize the land. It was right after the Lord's directive to depart from Mount Sinai that Moses addressed the people. I told you then, Moses recounted, that leading Israel was a burden too great for a single person. The Lord our God has multiplied our numbers, and we are now as numerous as the stars in the sky. God has even promised to bless us 1,000 times more, and I pray that he will. Yet, I cannot bear the responsibility of resolving all your conflicts and settling all your disputes alone. Therefore, he instructed, each tribe must select experienced men, known for their wisdom and understanding. I will then appoint these men as official leaders of their respective tribes. The people responded affirmatively. That's a good idea, they said. Consequently, Moses continued, I took these men, who were already wise and respected leaders, and appointed them as your official leaders. Some became military officers, overseeing groups of 1,000, 150, or 10. Others became judges, tasked with administering justice. I gave these judges the following instructions. When you preside over legal cases, your decisions must be impartial. It must not matter whether the dispute is between two Israelites or between an Israelite and a foreigner residing in your community. It also must not matter if one party is helpless and the other powerful. Show no fear of anyone, regardless of their status in your court. God will aid you in making just decisions. If any case proves too challenging for you, bring the people to me, and I will render a decision. Following these directives to the judges, Moses imparted the Lord's commands to the entire assembly. The Lord had commanded us to leave Mount Sinai and proceed to the hill country belonging to the Amorites. So we embarked on our journey into the vast and daunting desert. Soon we arrived at Kadesh Barnea. And I told you, we have reached the hill country. It belongs to the Amorites, but the Lord our God is giving it to us. He is the same God our ancestors worshipped, and he has commanded us to enter and possess this land. Therefore, do not hesitate or be afraid. Then all of you approached me, saying, before we proceed into the land, let us dispatch scouts to explore it. When they return, they can provide us with information about the towns we will encounter and the roads we should take to reach them. The idea seemed sound, so I selected 12 men, one from each tribe. They explored the hill country, reaching as far as the valley of Eshcol, and even brought back some of its fruit as evidence of its bounty. They reported, "The Lord our God is indeed giving us a good land. However, you were unwilling to enter the land and refused to obey the Lord your God. You stayed in your tents and grumbled, saying, 'The Lord must hate us. He brought us out of Egypt only to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites and annihilate us. We are filled with dread because the scouts who explored the land informed us that the cities are vast, with walls that reach the sky. The people who dwell there are taller and stronger than we are, and some of them are descendants of the Anakim. We have nowhere to flee.' Then I addressed you, saying, 'Do not be dismayed. The Lord our God will lead the way. He will fight on our behalf, just as he did when we witnessed his mighty acts against the Egyptians. And you know that the Lord has cared for us throughout our sojourn in the desert, just as a parent carries a child. Yet you still refuse to place your trust in the Lord, even though he had always been with us in the desert. During the day, the Lord was present in the cloud, guiding us in the right direction and indicating where we should camp. And at night he was there in the pillar of fire. You provoked the Lord's anger, and he declared, 'You, the people of this generation, are evil, and I will not permit you to enter the good land that I promised your ancestors. Caleb, son of Jephunneh, is the only one of your generation whom I will allow to enter. He has wholeheartedly obeyed me, so I will grant him and his descendants the land he explored. The Lord was also displeased with me because of you people, and he said, "Moses, I will not allow you to enter the land either. Instead, I will appoint Joshua, your assistant, to lead Israel in conquering the land. Therefore, encourage him." Then the Lord addressed you again. "People of Israel, you lamented that your innocent young children would be taken captive in the battle for the land. But in time I will allow them to enter the land, and with my assistance, they will conquer it and dwell there. Now turn back and journey into the desert by way of the Red Sea road." Then you confessed to me, "We have disobeyed the Lord our God, but now we are willing to obey him. We will advance into the hill country and fight, just as he commanded us." So you armed yourselves, believing it would be easy to seize the hill country. But the Lord cautioned, "Moses, warn them not to advance into the hill country. I will not aid them in battle, and their enemies will defeat them." I relayed the Lord's message to you, but you paid no heed. You disobeyed him and ventured into the hill country regardless. You believed you were invincible, but when the Amorites in the hill country attacked from their towns, you fled from them as you would flee from a swarm of bees. The Amorites pursued your troops into Seir as far as Hormah, inflicting heavy casualties along the way. Then you returned to the place of worship at Kadesh Barnea and wept, but the Lord would not heed your prayers. After we had spent several months in Kadesh, we obeyed the Lord and journeyed back into the desert by way of the Red Sea road. Deuteronomy 2. We spent many years wandering around outside the hill country of Seir. Years turned into decades as the Israelites traversed the arid landscapes. The sun beat down relentlessly, and the sand seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. Then the Lord spoke again to Moses. "Moses," the Lord said, "Israel has wandered in these hills long enough. Turn and go north. Give the people these orders. Be very careful, because you will soon go through the land that belongs to your relatives, the descendants of Esau. They are afraid of you, but don't start a war with them. I have given them the hill country of Seir, so I won't give any of it to you, not even enough to set a foot on. As you go through their land, you will have to buy food and water from them. The Lord has helped us and taken care of us during the past 40 years that we have been in this huge desert. We've had everything we needed, and the Lord has blessed us and made us successful in whatever we have done. We went past the territory that belonged to our relatives, the descendants of Esau. We followed the Arba road that starts in the south at Elath and Ezion-Geber. Then we turned onto the desert road that leads to Moab. The Lord told me, "Don't try to start a war with Moab. Leave them alone, because I gave the land of Ar to them, and I will not let you have any of it. Before the Lord gave the Moabites their land, a large and powerful tribe lived there. They were the Emim, and they were as tall as the Anakim. The Moabites call them Emim, though others sometimes use the name Rephaim for both the Anakim and the Emim. The Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau took over that region. They killed many of the Horites and forced the rest of them to leave, just as Israel did to the people in the land that the Lord gave them. When we came to the Zered Gorge along the southern border of Moab, the Lord told us to cross the gorge into Moab, and we did. This was 38 years after we left Kadesh Barnea. By that time, all the men who had been in the army at Kadesh Barnea had died, just as the Lord had said they would. The Lord kept getting rid of them until finally none of them were left. Then the Lord told me, "Moses, now go past the town of Ar and cross Moab's northern border into Ammon. But don't start a war with the Ammonites. I gave them their land, and I won't give any of it to Israel." Before the Ammonites conquered the land that the Lord had given them, some of the Rephaim used to live there, although the Ammonites called them Zamzummim. They were a large and powerful tribe, and they were as tall as the Anakim, but the Lord helped the Ammonites, and they killed many of the Zamzummim and forced the rest to leave. Then the Ammonites settled there. The Lord helped them as he had helped the descendants of Esau, who killed many of the Horites in Seir and forced the rest to leave before settling there themselves. A group called the Avim used to live in villages as far south as Gaza, but the Philistines killed them and settled on their land. After we went through Ammon, the Lord told us, "Israel, pack up your possessions, take down your tents, and cross the Arnon River Gorge." The territory of the Amorite king Sihon of Heshbon lies on the other side of the river, but I now give you his land, so attack and take it. Today I will start making all other nations afraid of you. They will tremble with fear when anyone mentions you, and they will be terrified when you show up. After we had crossed the Arnon and had set up camp in the Kedemoth desert, I sent messengers to King Sihon of Heshbon, telling him that his nation and ours could be at peace. I said, "Please let Israel go across your country. We will walk straight through without turning off the road. You can even sell us food and water, and we'll pay with silver. We need to reach the Jordan River and cross it, because the Lord our God is giving us the land on the west side. The Edomites and Moabites have already let us cross their land. Please let us cross your land as well." But Sihon refused to let us go across his country, because the Lord made him stubborn and eager to fight us. The Lord told me, "I am going to help you defeat Sihon and take his land, so attack him." We met Sihon and his army in battle at Jahaz, and the Lord our God helped us to defeat them. We killed Sihon, his sons, and everyone else in his army. Then we captured and destroyed every town in Sihon's kingdom, killing everyone but keeping the livestock and everything else of value. The Lord helped us capture every town from the Arnon River Gorge north to the boundary of Gilead, including the town of Aroer on the edge of the gorge and the town in the middle of the gorge. However, we stayed away from all the Ammonite towns, both in the hill country and near the Jabbok River, just as the Lord had commanded. Deuteronomy 3. When we turned onto the road that leads to Bashan, King Og of Bashan led out his whole army to fight us at Edrei. The clash was inevitable, a collision of ambition and destiny. But the Lord, in his unwavering support, spoke to Moses. "Moses, don't be afraid of King Og. I am going to help you defeat him and his army and take over his land. Destroy him and his people, just as you did with the Amorite king Sihon of Heshbon." And so it came to pass. The Lord our God aided us in utterly destroying Og and his entire army, enabling us to conquer his entire kingdom of Bashan, including the crucial Argob region. His kingdom possessed numerous villages, a staggering 60 towns, each fortified with high walls and gates securely locked with bars. These weren't mere settlements. They were symbols of power and resistance. We completely decimated them all, showing no mercy, killing everyone but sparing the livestock and all possessions of value. The spoils of war became ours. Sihon and Og had ruled Amorite kingdoms east of the Jordan River, a vast expanse of land stretching from the Arnon River Gorge in the south to Mount Hermon in the north, and we seized it all. Mount Hermon, known as Mount Sirion by the people of Sidon, was called Mount Senir by the Amorites. It stood as a silent witness to the shifting tides of power. We captured all the towns in the highlands, all of Gilead, and all of Bashan as far as Salika and Edrei, two of the towns that Og had ruled. The sweep was complete, the victory absolute. King Og was the last of the Rephaim, a race of giants. His coffin, a testament to his immense stature, can still be found in the town of Rabbah in Ammon. Constructed of hard, black basalt, it measures 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide. It serves as a tangible link to a bygone era. I allocated portions of the conquered land and towns to the tribes of Reuben and Gad. Their share commenced at the Arnon River Gorge in the south, encompassing the town of Aroer at the edge of the gorge, and extending far enough north to include the southern half of the Gilead region. The northern boundary of their land reached eastward to the upper Jabbok River Gorge, which marked their border with the Ammonites. The geography itself dictated the terms of their existence. I also assigned to them the eastern side of the Jordan River Valley, extending from Lake Galilee southward to the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Mount Pisgah. The visual imagery is striking. Fertile lands, bodies of water, and towering peaks. I bequeathed the northern half of Gilead and the entirety of the Bashan region to half of the tribe of Manasseh. Bashan had previously belonged to King Og, and the Argob region within Bashan was once known as the land of the Rephaim, harking back to an ancient lineage. Jair, a member of the Manasseh tribe, conquered the Argob region, pushing westward as far as the kingdoms of Geshur and Makkah. His ambition knew no bounds. The Israelites even began referring to Bashan by the name Havoth Jair, meaning villages of Jair, and that designation persists to this day. It was a way of stamping their identity onto the landscape. I granted the northern half of Gilead to the clan of Machir. This act further solidified the tribal divisions and the distribution of resources. At that time, I addressed the men of Reuben, Gad, and the eastern half of Manasseh. The Lord our God has directed me to grant you this land with its towns, and I have done so. Your wives and children may remain here, along with your vast flocks of sheep and goats and your large herds of cattle. But all of you men who are capable of serving in our army must cross the Jordan River and assist the other tribes, for they are your kinsmen. The Lord will enable them to vanquish the enemy nations on the west side of the Jordan and seize their land. Afterwards, you may return here to the land I have given you. Then, I spoke to Joshua, offering both encouragement and a solemn charge. Joshua, you have witnessed how the Lord our God aided us in defeating King Sihon and King Og. Therefore, do not be afraid. Wherever you go, the Lord will fight on your side and help you destroy your enemies. At that time, filled with longing, I poured out my heart in prayer, beseeching our Lord. O Lord, it seems that you have only begun to reveal to me your immense power. No other God in the heavens or on earth is capable of performing the mighty deeds that you accomplish. The land west of the Jordan is such good land. Please allow me to cross the Jordan and behold the hills and the Lebanon mountains. The desire to see the promised land burned within him. But the Lord, though loving, was resolute. The Lord was displeased with me because of you people, and he refused to listen. Enough! I do not wish to hear any more. Climb to the summit of Mount Pisgah, and gaze northward, southward, eastward, and westward. Take a long, lingering look, but you shall not cross the Jordan River. Joshua will lead Israel across the Jordan to seize the land. Therefore, fortify him, make him brave, and instruct him in what he must do. The mantle of leadership was being passed on. After this pronouncement, we remained for a time. Deuteronomy 4. Israel, lend your ears to these laws and teachings. If you obey them diligently, you shall live and you shall go in and possess the land that the Lord is bestowing upon you. He is the God your ancestors reverenced, and now he is your God. I am conveying to you all that he has commanded, so do not add anything, nor take anything away. Hold fast to his words. You witnessed how he annihilated everyone who paid homage to the god Baal Peor. Their fate serves as a chilling reminder of the consequences of straying from the true path. But all of you who remained faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today. Your steadfastness has been rewarded. No other nation possesses laws as fair are the laws the Lord my God has instructed me to impart to you. If, upon entering the land, you diligently obey them, you will demonstrate to other nations the depths of your wisdom. Indeed, all who hear of these laws will exclaim, "Surely this great nation is wise and discerning. What sets us apart, making us greater than other nations? We have a God who is near to us, who answers our prayers whenever we call upon him. But you must be ever vigilant, never forgetting the wondrous deeds you have witnessed God perform on your behalf. Continuously remind yourselves, and diligently teach your children and grandchildren, about the day you stood in the Lord's presence at Mount Sinai. The Lord declared, 'Moses, bring the people of Israel here to me. I desire to speak to them directly, so that they may learn to fear me and obey my commands throughout their lives. Moreover, they shall teach their children to do likewise, ensuring my covenant endures through generations.' Mount Sinai was enveloped in dense, dark clouds, and fire ascended to the heavens. As you approached the foot of the mountain, the Lord spoke to you from within the fire. You heard his voice, understanding his words, yet you could not behold his form. The Lord proclaimed that he was establishing a covenant with you, and he delineated your part in this sacred agreement: obedience to the 10 Commandments. Then, the Lord inscribed these commandments upon 2 tablets of stone. It was at that moment that the Lord commanded me to deliver to you the statutes and judgments you must observe in the land you are about to possess west of the Jordan River. When God spoke to you from the heart of the fire, he remained unseen, invisible. Therefore, be exceedingly careful not to fall into the sin of idolatry. Do not fashion idols for worship, whether they are images of men, women, beasts, birds, creeping things, or fish. And when you gaze upon the sun, moon, or stars, resist the temptation to bow down and worship them. The Lord has assigned these celestial bodies to all the other nations for their adoration. But you are the Lord's chosen people, for he led you through trials of fire and delivered you from the bondage of Egypt. The Lord was incensed with me because of your complaints and declared that I would not be permitted to cross the Jordan River into the good land he is giving you. Therefore, I must remain here and meet my end on this side of the Jordan. But you will cross over and take possession of the land. Always remember the covenant the Lord your God made with you, and do not create any graven image or likeness of anything. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. If you worship other gods, his anger will be kindled, and he will utterly destroy you. Soon you will cross the Jordan River and settle in the land. Then, in the years to come, you will have children, and they will bear grandchildren. After many years, you might lose your sense of what is right and good and make idols, though the Lord your God detests them. Therefore, I am giving you fair warning this day, and I call upon heaven and earth as witnesses. If you ever engage in idolatry, the Lord will be infuriated, and your days will be shortened in the land. The Lord will uproot you and scatter you among the nations. There you will be compelled to worship gods of wood and stone, mere idols that cannot see, hear, eat, or smell. Yet, even in your distress, if you finally turn back to the Lord and obey him wholeheartedly, he will once again be your God. The Lord your God is merciful. He will not forsake you or destroy you. He will remember his covenant with your ancestors and remain true to his word. When the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt, you witnessed how he fought for you, demonstrating his great power through terrifying signs and wonders, and establishing you as his own people. At Mount Sinai, you heard his voice speaking to you from the midst of the fiery flames, and yet you lived. Has anything like this ever occurred before? Search throughout the world, inquire of ages past, and you will find no parallel. No one has ever heard of another God who attempted such things as the Lord your God has done for you. The Lord desires you to know that he is the only true God, and he commands your obedience. That is why he allowed you to witness his mighty miracles and his consuming fire on earth, and why you heard his voice from within that fire. Out of love for your ancestors, the Lord chose you to be his people. With his great power, the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Now, you face nations more powerful than yourselves. But the Lord has already begun to drive them out of their land and give it to you. Therefore, remember that the Lord is the only true God, in the heavens above and on the earth below. Today, I am expounding upon his statutes and judgments, so that if you obey them always, you and your descendants may live long and prosper in the land the Lord is giving you. Moses then addressed the people of Israel. You must set aside 3 towns east of the Jordan River as cities of refuge, Moses commanded: Bezer in the wilderness, in the territory of the tribe of Reuben; Ramoth in Gilead, in the territory of the tribe of Gad; and Golan in Bashan, in the territory of the tribe of Manasseh. If anyone kills a neighbor unintentionally, without prior malice, that person may flee to one of these cities and find safety. The Israelites had journeyed from Egypt and were encamped east of the Jordan River, near Beth Peor, when Moses imparted these laws and statutes. The land surrounding their encampment had once belonged to King Sihon of Heshbon, but Moses and the Israelites had triumphed over him and King Og of Bashan, seizing their territories. These 2 Amorite kings had governed the land east of the Jordan River, from Aroer on the edge of the Arnon River gorge north to Mount Hermon. Their domain encompassed the eastern side of the Jordan River Valley, extending as far south as the Dead Sea below the slopes of Mount Pisgah. Become a powerful nation. Then be sure to obey every command I am giving you. Don't forget how the Lord your God has led you through the desert for the past 40 years. He wanted to find out if you were truly willing to obey him and depend on him. So he made you go hungry, then he gave you manna, a kind of food that you and your ancestors had never even heard about. The Lord was teaching you that people need more than food. To live, they need every word that the Lord has spoken. Over the past 40 years your clothing hasn't worn out, and your feet haven't swollen, so keep in mind that the Lord has been correcting you, just as parents correct their children. Obey the commands the Lord your God has given you, and worship him with fear and trembling. The Lord your God is bringing you into a good land with streams that flow from springs in the valleys and hills. You can dig for copper in those hills, and the stones are made of iron ore, and you won't go hungry. Wheat and barley fields are everywhere, and so are vineyards and orchards full of fig, pomegranate, and olive trees, and there is plenty of honey. After you eat and are full, give praise to the Lord your God for the good land he gave you. Make sure that you never forget the Lord, or disobey his laws and teachings that I am giving you today. If you always obey them, you will have plenty to eat, and you will build good houses to live. In you will get more and more cattle, sheep, silver, gold, and other possessions. But when all this happens, don't be proud. Don't forget that you are once slaves in Egypt, and that it was the Lord who set you free. Remember how he led you in that huge and frightening desert where poisonous snakes and scorpions live. There was no water, but the Lord split open a rock, and water poured out so you could drink. He also gave you manna, a kind of food your ancestors had never even heard about. The Lord was testing you to make you trust him so that later on he could be good to you when you become successful. Don't say, I'm rich and I've earned it all myself. Instead, remember that the Lord your God gives you the strength to make a living. That's how he keeps the promise he made to your ancestors. But I'm warning you, if you forget the Lord your God and worship other gods, the Lord will destroy you, just as he destroyed the nations you fought. Deuteronomy 9. Israel, listen to me. You will soon cross the Jordan River and go into the land to force out the nations that live there. They are more powerful than you are, and the walls around their cities reach to the sky. Some of these nations are descendants of the Anakim. You know how tall and strong they are, and you've heard that no one can defeat them in battle. For the Lord your God has promised to go ahead of you, like a raging fire, burning everything in its path. So when you attack your enemies, it will be easy for you to destroy them and take their land. After the Lord helps you wipe out these nations and conquer their land, don't think he did it because you are such good people. You aren't good. You are stubborn. No, the Lord is going to help you, because the nations that live there are evil, and because he wants to keep the promise he made your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Don't ever forget how you kept rebelling and making the Lord angry the whole time you were in the desert. You rebelled from the day you left Egypt until the day you arrived here. At Mount Sinai you made the Lord so angry that he was going to destroy you. It happened during those 40 days and nights that I was on the mountain, without anything to eat or drink. He had told me to come up there so he could give me the agreement he made with us, and this agreement was actually the same 10 commandments he had announced to you when he spoke from the fire on the mountain. The Lord had written them on 2 flat stones with his own hand. But after giving me the 2 stones, he said, Moses, hurry down the mountain to those people you led out of Egypt. They have already disobeyed me and committed the terrible sin of making an idol. I've been watching the Israelites and I've seen how stubborn and rebellious they are. So don't try to stop me. I am going to wipe them out, and no one on earth would remember they ever lived. Then I will let your descendants become an even bigger and more powerful nation than Israel. Fire was raging on the mountaintop as I went back down, carrying the 2 stones with the commandments on them. I saw how quickly you had sinned and disobeyed the Lord, your God. There you were worshiping the metal idol you had made in the shape of a calf. So I threw down the 2 stones and smashed them before your very eyes. I bowed down at the place of worship and prayed to the Lord without eating or drinking for 40 days and nights. You had committed a terrible sin by making that idol, and the Lord hated what you had done. He was angry enough to destroy all of you and Aaron as well. So I prayed for you and Aaron as I had done before, and this time the Lord answered my prayers. It was a sin for you to make that idol, so I threw it into the fire to melt it down. Then I took the lump of gold, ground it into powder, and threw the powder into the stream flowing down the mountain. You also made the Lord angry when you were staying at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth Hadava. Then at Kadesh Barnea the Lord said, I am giving you the land, so go ahead and take it. But since you didn't trust the Lord, you rebelled and disobeyed his command. In fact, you've rebelled against the Lord for as long as he has known you. After you had made the idol in the shape of a calf, the Lord said he was going to destroy you. So I bowed down in front of the sacred tent for 40 days and nights, and I prayed, our Lord, please don't wipe out your people. You used your great power to rescue them from Egypt and to make them your very own. Israel's ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob obeyed you faithfully. Think about them and not about Israel's stubbornness, evil, and sin. If you destroy your people, the Egyptians will say the Lord promised to give Israel land, but he wasn't powerful enough to keep his promise. In fact, he hated them so much that he took them into the desert and killed them. But you, our Lord, chose the people of Israel to be your own, and with your mighty power you rescued them from Egypt. Deuteronomy 10. The Lord told me to chisel out 2 flat stones, just like the ones he had given me earlier. He also commanded me to make a wooden chest, then come up the mountain and meet with him. He told me that he would write the same words on the new stones that he had written on the old ones I broke, and that I could put these stones in the sacred chest. So I made a chest out of acacia wood, and I chiseled 2 flat stones like the ones I broke. Then I carried the stones up the mountain where the Lord wrote the 10 commandments on them, just as he had done the first time. The commandments were exactly what he had announced from the fire when you were gathered at the mountain. After the Lord returned the stones to me, I took them down the mountainside and put them in the chest, just as he had commanded, and they are still there. Later we set up camp at the wells belonging to the descendants of Jachin. Then we moved on and camped at Masirah, where Aaron died and was buried, and his son Eleazar became the priest. Next we camped at Gudgoda, and then at Jatbatha, where there are flowing streams. After I put the 2 stones in the sacred chest, the Lord chose the tribe of Levi not only to carry the chest, but also to serve as his priests at the place of worship, and to bless the other tribes in his name, and they still do these things. The Lord promised that he would always provide for the tribe of Levi, and that's why he won't give them any land when he divides it among the other tribes. When I had taken the second set of stones up the mountain, I spent 40 days and nights there, just as I had done before. Once again the Lord answered my prayer, and did not destroy you. Instead he told me, Moses, get ready to lead the people into the land that I promised their ancestors. People of Israel, what does the Lord your God want from you? The Lord wants you to respect and follow him, to love and serve him with all your heart and soul, and to obey his laws and teachings that I am giving you today. Do this, and all will go well for you. Everything belongs to the Lord your God, not only the earth and everything on it, but also the sky and the highest heavens. Yet the Lord loved your ancestors and wanted them to belong to him, so he chose them and their descendants rather than any other nation. And today you are still his people. Remember your agreement with the Lord, and stop being so stubborn. The Lord your God is more powerful than all other gods and lords, and his tremendous power is to be feared. His decisions are always fair, and you cannot bribe him to change his mind. The law defends the rights of orphans and widows. He cares for foreigners and gives them food and clothing, and you should also care for them, because you were foreigners in Egypt. Respect the Lord your God. Serve only him and make promises in his name alone. Offer your praises to him because you have seen him work such terrifying miracles for you. When your ancestors went to live in Egypt, there were only 70 of them. But the Lord has blessed you, and now there are more of you than there are stars in the sky. Deuteronomy 11. The Lord is your God, so you must always love him and obey his laws and teachings. Remember, he corrected you and not your children. You are the ones who saw the Lord use his great power when he worked miracles in Egypt, making terrible things happen to the king and all his people. And when the Egyptian army chased you in their chariots, you saw the Lord drown them and their horses in the Red Sea. Egypt still suffers from that defeat. You saw what the Lord did for you while you were in the desert, right up to the time you arrived here. And you saw how the Lord made the ground open up in the middle of our camp. Underneath the tents of Dathan and Abiram, it was swallowed up along with their families, their animals, and their tents. With your own eyes you saw the Lord's mighty power. Do all these things soon. You will cross the Jordan River, and if you obey the laws and teachings I am giving you today, you will be strong enough to conquer the land that the Lord promised your ancestors and their descendants. It's rich with milk and honey, and you will live there and enjoy it for a long time. It's better land than you had in Egypt, where you had to struggle just to water your crops. But the hills and valleys in the promised land are watered by rain from heaven, because the Lord your God keeps his eye on this land and takes care of it all year long. The Lord your God commands you to love him and to serve him with all your heart and soul. If you obey him, he will send rain at the right seasons, so you will have more than enough food, wine and olive oil, and there will be plenty of grass for your cattle. But watch out, you will be tempted to turn your backs on the Lord, and if you worship other gods, the Lord will become angry and keep the rain from falling. Nothing will grow in your fields, and you will die and disappear from the good land that the Lord is giving you. Memorize these laws and think about them. Write down copies and tie them to your wrists and your foreheads to help you obey them. Teach them to your children. Talk about them all the time, whether you're at home or walking along the road or going to bed at night or getting up in the morning. Write them on the door frames of your homes and on your town gates. Then you and your descendants will live a long time in the land of the Lord promised your ancestors. Your families will live there as long as the sky is above the earth. Love the Lord your God and obey all the laws and teachings that I'm giving you today. If you live the way the Lord wants, He will help you take the land. And even though the nations there are more powerful than you, the Lord will force them to leave. When you attack, you will capture the land. Everywhere you go, from the southern desert to the Lebanon mountains, and from the Euphrates River west to the Mediterranean Sea, no one will be able to stand up to you. The Lord will make everyone terrified of you, just as He promised. You have a choice. Do you want the Lord to bless you, or do you want Him to put a curse on you? Today I am giving you His laws, and if you obey Him, He will bless you. But if you disobey Him and worship those gods that have never done anything for you, the Lord will put a curse on you. After the Lord your God helps you take the land, you must have a ceremony where you announce His blessings from Mount Gerizim and His curses from Mount Ebal. You know that these two mountains are west of the Jordan River, in land now controlled by the Canaanites living in the Jordan River Valley. The mountains are west of the road near the sacred trees of Mori, on the other side of Gilgal. Soon you will cross the Jordan River to conquer the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And when you have settled there, be careful to obey His laws and teachings that I am giving you today. Deuteronomy 12. Now I'll tell you the laws and teachings that you have to obey as long as you live. Your ancestors worshiped the Lord, and He is giving you this land. But the nations that live there worship other gods. So after you capture the land, you must completely destroy their places of worship, on mountains and hills or in the shade of large trees. Whatever these nations worship their gods, you must tear down their altars, break their sacred stones, burn the sacred poles used in worshiping the goddess Asherah, and smash their idols to pieces. Destroy these places of worship so completely that no one will remember they were ever there. Don't worship the Lord your God in the way those nations worship their gods. Soon you will cross the Jordan, and the Lord will help you conquer your enemies and let you live in peace there in the land He has given you. But after you are settled, life will be different. You must not offer sacrifices just anywhere you want to. Instead, the Lord will choose a place somewhere in Israel where you must go to worship Him. All of your sacrifices and offerings must be taken there, including sacrifices to please the Lord, and any gift you promise or voluntarily give Him. That's where you must also take 1/10 of your grain, wine, and olive oil, as well as the firstborn of your cattle, sheep, and goats. You and your family and servants will eat your gifts and sacrifices, and celebrate there at the place of worship, because the Lord your God has made you successful in everything you have done. And since Levites will not have any land of their own, you must ask some of them to come along and celebrate with you. Sometimes you may want to kill an animal for food, and not as a sacrifice. If the Lord has blessed you and given you enough cows or sheep or goats, then you can butcher one of them where you live. You can eat it just like the meat from a deer or gazelle that you kill when you go hunting. And even those people who are unclean and unfit for worship can have some of the meat, but you must not eat the blood. As Moses prepared his people for their entry into the Promised Land, he spoke with the weight of experience, a lifetime spent leading them through trials and tribulations. He began with a solemn warning, echoing through the assembly. If you are to become a powerful nation, then be sure to obey every command I am giving you. Do not forget how the Lord your God has led you through the desert these past 40 years. He did this to test you, to find out if you were truly willing to obey Him and depend on Him. He humbled you by letting you go hungry, and then He fed you with manna, a food unknown to you and your ancestors. The Lord was teaching you a profound lesson, that people need more than just physical sustenance to live. They need every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the Israelites, many of whom were too young to remember the exodus from Egypt, but all of whom had known the harsh realities of desert life. For 40 years your clothes have not worn out, and your feet have not swollen. Remember this and understand that the Lord has been correcting you, just as a parent corrects a child. Obey the commands the Lord your God has given you, and worship him with fear and trembling. Moses then shifted his tone, painting a vivid picture of the land that awaited them, a stark contrast to the arid wilderness they had known for so long. The Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams that flow from springs in the valleys and hills. It is a land where you can dig for copper in the hills, where the stones are rich with iron ore. You will not go hungry there. Wheat and barley fields stretch as far as the eye can see, and vineyards and orchards overflow with figs, pomegranates, and olives. And there is plenty of honey, he continued, his voice resonating with the promise of abundance. After you have eaten your fill, give praise to the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. But be warned. Make sure that you never forget the Lord or disobey his laws and teachings that I am giving you today. If you always obey, you will have plenty to eat, and you will build good houses to live in. You will acquire more and more cattle, sheep, silver, gold, and other possessions. But when all this happens, do not become proud. Do not forget that you were once slaves in Egypt, and that it was the Lord who set you free. He reminded them of the trials they had overcome, the miracles they had witnessed. Remember how he led you through that vast and frightening desert, where poisonous snakes and scorpions lurked. There was no water, but the Lord split open a rock and water poured out so you could drink. He fed you with manna, a food your ancestors had never even heard of. The Lord was testing you to make you trust him so that in the end, he could be good to you when you become successful. Moses' voice grew sterner, laced with a prophetic warning. Do not say, "My power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me." But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, so confirming his covenant he swore to your ancestors, as it is today. But I warn you, if you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, worshipping and bowing down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God. Then, transitioning to a new chapter, a more immediate challenge, Moses addressed the Israelites with the weight of impending warfare. Deuteronomy 9. Israel, listen to me. You are about to cross the Jordan River and take possession of lands held by nations greater and mightier than you, nations with large cities fortified to the sky. The people are strong and tall, descendants of the Anakim. You know about them and have heard it said, "Who can stand up against the Anakites?" His voice rose with renewed conviction. But be assured today that the Lord your God is the one who goes before you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them. He will subdue them before you, and you will drive them out and annihilate them quickly, as he has promised you. He paused, letting his words sink in before delivering a crucial caution. After the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourselves, "The Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness." No, it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your integrity that you are going in to take possession of their land. But on account of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you, to accomplish what he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He emphasized their history of disobedience, their tendency to rebel against God's commands. Remember this and never forget how you provoked the Lord your God to anger in the wilderness. From the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious against the Lord. At Horeb you aroused the Lord's wrath, so that he was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up on the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord had made with you, I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no food and drank no water. He recounted the episode of the golden calf, a vivid reminder of their fickle faith. The Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. On them were all the words the Lord had spoken to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of the assembly. At the end of 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. Then the Lord said to me, "Go down at once, because your people whom you brought out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have turned away quickly from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol." Moses vividly recalled God's fury and his own desperate pleas for mercy. The Lord had also said to me, "I have seen this people, and they are a stiff-necked people. Let me alone, so that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make you into a nation stronger and more numerous than they." So I turned and came down from the mountain while it was ablaze with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. When I looked, I saw that you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made yourselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. He painted a dramatic scene of his own reaction upon witnessing their idolatry. So I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my hands, breaking them before your eyes. Then once again I fell prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no food and drank no water, because of all the sin you had committed, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight and so arousing his anger. He described his intercession, his relentless prayer on their behalf. I was afraid because the Lord was angry and furious with you and ready to destroy you. But again the Lord listened to me. And the Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him. But at that time I prayed for Aaron too. Also I took your sinful idol, the calf you had made, and burned it in the fire. Then I crushed it and ground it to powder as fine as dust and threw the dust into a stream that flowed down the mountain. He then recounted other instances of their rebellion, their constant testing of God's patience. You also made the Lord angry at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth Hattaavah. And when the Lord sent you out from Kadesh Barnea, saying, "Go up and take possession of the land I have given you," you rebelled against his command. You did not trust him or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord ever since I have known you. Moses emphasized his continued pleas for forgiveness on their behalf after the calf incident. So I prostrated myself before the Lord those 40 days and 40 nights because the Lord had said he would destroy you. I prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, do not destroy your people, your own inheritance that you redeemed by your great power and brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and pay no attention to the stubbornness of this people, their wickedness or their sin. Otherwise, the country from which you brought us will say, because the Lord was not able to take them into the land he had promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. But they are your people, your inheritance that you brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm." Moses continued by recounting the events surrounding the replacement of the tablets of the law, highlighting God's renewed commitment despite their past transgressions. Deuteronomy 10. At that time the Lord said to me, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones and come up to me on the mountain. Also make a wooden ark. I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Then you are to put them in the ark." So I made the ark out of acacia wood and chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I went up on the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hands. He reiterated God's faithfulness in providing the 10 Commandments once more. The Lord wrote on those tablets what he had written before, the 10 Commandments he had proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire, on the day of the assembly. And the Lord gave them to me. Then I came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord commanded me, and they are there now. Moses then briefly mentioned their journeys and the establishment of the priesthood. The Israelites traveled from the wells of Bene Jaakan to Mosera. There Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest. From there they traveled to Gudgoda and on to Jotbatha, a land with streams of water. At that time the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to minister and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they do to this day. That is why the Levites have no share or inheritance among their fellow Israelites. The Lord is their inheritance, as the Lord your God told them. He returned to the theme of his intercession on their behalf, emphasizing God's willingness to forgive and guide them. Now I had stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I did the first time, and the Lord listened to me at this time also. The Lord was not willing to destroy you. Go, the Lord said to me, and lead the people on their way, so that they may enter and possess the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Moses concluded with a heartfelt plea, urging the Israelites to embrace a life of obedience and devotion to God. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good? To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. He urged them to cast aside their stubbornness and embrace a covenant relationship with their God. Therefore, circumcise your hearts and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is the one you praise. He is your God, who performed for you those great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Moses continued his discourse, focusing on the past and its lessons for the future, as recorded in Deuteronomy 11. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws and his commands always. Remember today that it was not your children who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God. His majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, the signs he performed and the things he did in Egypt to Pharaoh king of Egypt and to his entire country. What he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord has kept them destroyed to this day, what he did for you in the wilderness, until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of Israel's camp and swallowed them up with their households, their tents and every living thing that belonged to them. It was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. He then turned to the future, outlining the blessings of obedience and the curses of disobedience. Observe therefore all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of hills and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning of the year to its end. Moses emphasized the importance of obedience for continued prosperity. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods, bowing down to them. Then the Lord's anger will be aroused against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain and the ground will not yield its crops, and you will quickly perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. He implored them to internalize God's word and to pass it down to future generations. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, as long as the heavens are above the earth. Moses continued, reinforcing the promise of victory over their enemies if they remained faithful. If you carefully observe all these commands I am giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on all the land, wherever you go. He presented them with a clear choice, a pivotal decision that would determine their fate. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods, which you have not known. Moses then outlined the ceremonial procedures to be followed upon entering the land, emphasizing the importance of proclaiming God's blessings and curses in specific locations. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings, and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan, west of the road, toward the setting sun, near the great trees of Moor, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah in the vicinity of Gilgal. He concluded this section with a final exhortation to obedience. You are about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I am setting before you today. And finally, as recorded in Deuteronomy 12, Moses laid down the fundamental principles regarding worship in the Promised Land. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. You must certainly destroy all the places on the high mountains, on the hills and under every spreading tree, where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, burn their Asherah poles in the fire, and cut down their idols, obliterating their names from those places. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way. Moses made it clear that their worship of God was to be distinct from the practices of the nations they were displacing. But you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give and your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There, in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. He emphasized the centralized nature of worship, directing them to a specific place chosen by God. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone doing as they see fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around you so that you will live in safety. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. He explained the communal nature of worship, highlighting the inclusion of Levites in their celebrations. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Moses also addressed the issue of slaughtering animals for food, distinguishing it from sacrificial offerings. However, whenever you want you may slaughter your animals and eat meat in any of your towns, according to the blessing the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer. But you, of any animal let the blood drain out on the ground. The Lord has promised that later on he will give Israel more land, and some of you may not be able to travel all the way from your homes to the place of worship each time you are hungry for meat. But the Lord will give you cattle, sheep, and goats, and you can butcher any of those animals at home and eat as much as you want. It is the same as eating the meat from a deer or a gazelle that you kill when you go hunting, and in this way anyone who is unclean and unfit for worship can have some of the meat. But don't eat the blood. It is the life of the animal, so let it drain out on the ground before you eat the meat. Do you want the Lord to make you successful? Do you want your children to be successful even after you are gone? Then do what pleases the Lord, and don't eat blood. All sacrifices and offerings to the Lord must be taken to the place where he chooses to be worshipped. If you offer a sacrifice to please the Lord, all of its meat must be burned on the altar. You can eat the meat from certain kinds of sacrifices, but you must always pour out the animal's blood on the altar. If you obey these laws, you will be doing what the Lord your God says is right and good. Then he will help you and your descendants be successful. Israel, as you go into the land and attack the nations that are there, the Lord will get rid of them and you can have their land. But that's when you must be especially careful not to ask, how did these nations worship their gods? Shouldn't we worship the Lord in the same way? No, you should not. The Lord hates the disgusting way those nations worship their gods because they even burn their sons and daughters as sacrifices. Obey all the laws and teachings I am giving you. Don't add any, and don't take any away. Deuteronomy 13. Someday a prophet may come along who is able to perform miracles or tell what will happen in the future. Then the prophet may say, let's start worshiping some new gods, some gods that we know nothing about. If the prophet says this, don't listen. The Lord your God will be watching to find out whether or not you love him with all your heart and soul. You must be completely faithful to the Lord. Worship and obey only the Lord, and do this with fear and trembling because he rescued you from slavery in Egypt. If a prophet tells you to disobey the Lord your God and to stop worshiping him, then that prophet is evil and must be put to death. Someone else may say to you, let's worship other gods. That person may be your best friend, your brother or sister, your son or daughter, or your own dear wife or husband, but you must not listen to people who say such things. Instead, you must stone them to death. You must be the first to throw the stones. Then others from the community will finish the job. Don't show any pity. The gods worshipped by other nations have never done anything for you or your ancestors. People who ask you to worship other gods are trying to get you to stop worshiping the Lord, who rescued you from slavery in Egypt, so put to death anyone who asks you to worship another god. And when the rest of Israel hears about it, they will be afraid, and no one else will ever do such an evil thing again. After the Lord your God gives you towns to live in, you may hear a rumor about one of the towns. You may hear that some worthless people have talked everyone there into worshiping other gods, even though these gods have never done anything for them. You must carefully find out if the rumor is true. Then, if the people of that town have actually done such a disgusting thing in your own country, you must take your swords and kill every one of them, and their livestock too. Gather all the possessions of the people who live there and pile them up in the marketplace, without keeping anything for yourself. Set the pile and the whole town on fire, and don't ever rebuild the town. The whole town will be a sacrifice to the Lord your God. Then he won't be angry anymore, and he will have mercy on you and make you successful, just as he promised your ancestors. That's why you must do what the Lord your God says is right. I am giving you his laws and teachings today, and you must obey them. Deuteronomy 14. People of Israel, you are the Lord's children. So when you mourn for the dead, you must not cut yourselves or shave your forehead. Out of all the nations on this earth, the Lord your God chose you to be his own. You belong to the Lord, so don't behave like those who worship other gods. Don't eat any disgusting animals. You may eat the meat of cattle, sheep and goats, wild sheep and goats and gazelles, antelopes and all kinds of deer. It is all right to eat meat from any animals that have divided hooves and also chew the cud. But don't eat camels, rabbits, and rock badgers. These animals chew the cud but do not have divided hooves. You must treat them as unclean. And don't eat pork since pigs have divided hooves, but they do not chew their cud. Don't even touch a dead pig. You can eat any fish that has fins and scales, but there are other creatures that live in the water, and if they do not have fins and scales, you must not eat them. Treat them as unclean. You can eat any clean bird, but don't eat the meat of any of the following birds: eagles, vultures, falcons, kites, ravens, ostriches, owls, seagulls, hawks, pelicans, ospreys, cormorants, storks, herons, and hoopoe. You must not eat bats. Swarming insects are unclean, so don't eat them. However, you are allowed to eat certain kinds of winged insects. You belong to the Lord your God, so if you happen to find a dead animal, don't eat its meat. You may give it to foreigners who live in your town or sell it to foreigners who are visiting your town. Don't boil the young goat in its mother's milk. People of Israel, every year you must set aside 10% of your grain harvest. Also set aside 10% of your wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of every cow, sheep, and goat. Take these to the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped and eat them there. This will teach you to always respect the Lord your God. But suppose you can't carry that 10% of your harvest to the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. If you live too far away or if the Lord gives you a big harvest, then sell this part and take the money there instead. When you and your family arrive, spend the money on food for a big celebration. Buy cattle, sheep, goats, wine, beer, and if there are any other kinds of food that you want, buy those too. And since people of the Levi tribe won't own any land for growing crops, remember to ask the Levites to celebrate with you. Every third year, instead of using the 10% of your harvest for a big celebration, bring it into town and put it in a community storehouse. The Levites have no land of their own, so you must give them food from the storehouse. You must also give food to the poor who live in your town, including orphans, widows, and foreigners. If they have enough to eat, then the Lord your God will be pleased and make you successful in everything you do. Deuteronomy 15. Every 7 years, you must announce the Lord says loans do not need to be paid back. Then, if you have loaned money to another Israelite, you can no longer ask for payment. This law applies only to loans you have made to other Israelites. Foreigners will still have to pay back what you have loaned them. No one in Israel should ever be poor. The Lord your God is giving you this land, and He has promised to make you very successful if you obey His laws and teachings that I'm giving you today. You will lend money to many nations, but you won't have to borrow. You will rule many nations, but they won't rule you. After the Lord your God gives land to each of you, there may be poor Israelites in the town where you live. If there are, then don't be mean and selfish with your money. Instead, be kind and lend them what they need. Be careful. Don't say to yourself, "Soon it'll be the 7th year, and then I won't be able to get my money back." It would be horrible for you to think that way and to be so selfish that you refuse to help the poor. They are your relatives, and if you don't help them, they may ask the Lord to decide whether you have done wrong, and He will say that you are guilty. You should be happy to give the poor what they need because then the Lord will make you successful in everything you do. There will always be some Israelites who are poor and needy. That's why I am commanding you to be generous with them. If any of you buy Israelites as slaves, you must set them free after 6 years. And don't just tell them they are free to leave. Give them sheep and goats and a good supply of grain and wine. The more the Lord has given you, the more you should give them. I am commanding you to obey the Lord as a reminder that you were slaves in Egypt before He set you free. But one of your slaves may say, "I love you and your family, and I will be better off staying with you. So please don't make me leave." Take the slave to the door of your house and push a sharp metal rod through one earlobe and into the door. Such slaves belong to you for life, whether they are men or women. Don't complain when you have to set a slave free. After all, you got 6 years of service at half the cost of hiring someone to do the work. If the firstborn animal of a cow or sheep or goat is a male, it must be given to the Lord. Don't put firstborn cattle to work or cut wool from firstborn sheep. Instead, each year you must take the firstborn of these animals to the place where the Lord your God chooses to be worshipped. You and your family will sacrifice them to the Lord and then eat them as part of a sacred meal. But if the animal is lame or blind or has something else wrong with it, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You can butcher it where you live and eat it just like the meat of a deer or gazelle that you kill while hunting. Even those people who are unclean and unfit for worship can have some. But you must never eat the blood of an animal. Let it drain out on the ground. Deuteronomy 16. People of Israel, you must celebrate Passover in the month of Abib because one night in that month years ago, the Lord your God rescued you from Egypt. The Passover sacrifice must be a cow, a sheep, or a goat, and you must offer it at the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. Eat all of the meat of the Passover sacrifice that same night, but don't serve bread made with yeast at the Passover meal. Serve the same kind of thin bread that you ate when you were slaves suffering in Egypt, and when you had to leave Egypt quickly. As long as you live, this thin bread will remind you of the day you left Egypt. For 7 days following Passover, don't make any bread with yeast. In fact, there should be no yeast anywhere in Israel. Don't offer the Passover sacrifice in just any town where you happen to live. It must be offered at the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. Kill the sacrifice at sunset, the time of day when you left Egypt. Then cook it and eat it there at the place of worship, returning to your tents the next morning. Eat thin bread for the next 6 days. Then on the 7th day, don't do any work. Instead, come together and worship the Lord. 7 weeks after you start your grain harvest, go to the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped and celebrate the harvest festival in honor of the Lord your God. Bring him an offering as large as you can afford, depending on how big a harvest he has given you. Be sure to take along your sons and daughters and all your servants. Also, invite the poor, including Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows. Remember that you used to be slaves in Egypt, so obey these laws. After you have finished the grain harvest and the grape harvest, take your sons and daughters and all your servants to the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. Celebrate the Festival of Shelters for 7 days. Also, invite the poor, including Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows. The Lord will give you big harvests and make you successful in everything you do. You will be completely happy. So celebrate this festival in honor of the Lord your God. Each year, there are 3 festivals when all Israelite men must go to the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. These are the Festival of Thin Bread, the Harvest Festival, and the Festival of Shelters, and don't forget to take a larger gift for the Lord. The bigger the harvest the Lord gives you, the bigger your gift should be. After you are settled in the towns that you will receive from the Lord your God, the people in each town must appoint judges and other officers. Those of you that become judges must be completely fair when you make legal decisions. Even if someone important is involved, don't take bribes to give unfair decisions. Bribes keep people who are wise from seeing the truth and turn honest people into liars. People of Israel, if you want to enjoy a long and successful life, make sure that everyone is treated with justice in the land that the Lord is giving you. When you build the altar for offering sacrifices to the Lord your God, don't set up a sacred pole for the worship of the goddess Asherah, and don't set up a sacred stone. The Lord hates these things. Deuteronomy 17. If an ox or a sheep has something wrong with it, don't offer it as a sacrifice to the Lord your God. He will be disgusted. The Lord your God is giving you towns to live in, but later a man or a woman in your town may start worshiping other gods or even the sun, moon, or stars. I have warned you not to worship other gods because whoever worships them is disobeying the Lord and breaking the agreement he made with you. So, when you hear that someone in your town is committing this disgusting sin, you must carefully find out if that person really is guilty, but you will need 2 or 3 witnesses. 1 witness isn't enough to prove a person guilty. Get rid of those who are guilty of such evil. Take them outside your town gates and have everyone stone them to death, but the witnesses must be the first to throw stones. It may be difficult to find out the truth in some legal cases in your town. You may not be able to decide if someone was killed accidentally or murdered, or you may not be able to tell whether an injury or some property damage was done by accident or on purpose. If the case is too difficult, take it to the court at the place where the Lord your God chooses to be worshipped. This court will be made up of 1 judge and several priests who serve at the Lord's altar. They will explain the law to you and give you their decision about the case. Do exactly what they tell you or you will be put to death. When other Israelites hear about it, they will be afraid and obey the decisions of the court. People of Israel, after you capture the land the Lord your God is giving you and after you settle on it, you will say, "We want a king just like the nations around us." Go ahead and appoint a king, but make sure that he is an Israelite and that he is the one the Lord has chosen. The king should not have many horses, especially those from Egypt. The Lord has said never to go back there again. And the king must not have a lot of wives. They might tempt him to be unfaithful to the Lord. Finally, the king must not try to get huge amounts of silver and gold. An official copy of God's laws will be kept by the Levitical priests. As soon as someone is crowned king, he must present himself to the priests. Under their supervision, he will meticulously transcribe a copy of these sacred laws. Each day, the king is required to read and diligently obey these laws. This practice will instill in him a profound reverence and fear of the Lord. It will also prevent him from developing an inflated ego and considering himself superior to his subjects. If the king steadfastly adheres to the Lord's commands, both he and his descendants will secure a long and prosperous reign over Israel. Deuteronomy 18. The tribe of Levi, including the priests, will not be granted any territorial land. Instead, they will be provided for through a portion of the sacrifices offered to the Lord. This is God's divine provision for them, ensuring their sustenance and well-being. When you sacrifice a bull or sheep, specific portions are designated for the priests: the shoulder, the jaws, and the stomach. Furthermore, they are entitled to receive the first portion of your grain harvest. They also receive a share of your initial batches of wine and olive oil. Each year, you must also present them with the first shearing of wool from your sheep. These offerings are bestowed upon the priests because the Lord has chosen them and their lineage. From all the tribes of Israel, they are selected as his special servants, ministering at the designated place of worship. Any Levite is permitted to leave their hometown and journey to the Lord's chosen place of worship. There, they can serve as a dedicated servant of the Lord, alongside their fellow Levites. Some Levites may possess wealth accumulated from selling family inheritances. Others may not have any possessions, yet all Levites serving at the place of worship will receive an equal share of food. This food will come from the sacrifices and gifts brought forth by the people. Soon you will enter the land that the Lord your God is bequeathing to you. The nations inhabiting that land engage in practices that are utterly detestable to the Lord. You must never emulate their abhorrent ways. Do not offer your son or daughter as a human sacrifice. Refrain from engaging in any form of magic or witchcraft, whether it's to foretell the future or cast spells. Do not attempt to communicate with the spirits of the dead. The Lord is repulsed by anyone who engages in these practices. It is precisely because of their wickedness that he will empower you to obliterate the nations currently dwelling in the land. Never allow yourselves to be tainted by these disgusting deeds. You will enter and seize the land from nations that practice magic and witchcraft. But the Lord your God will not allow you to engage in these practices. Instead, he will choose a prophet from among your own people, just as he chose me. You must heed the words of that prophet, and do as they say. You yearned for a prophet on that fateful day when you gathered at Mount Sinai. You pleaded with the Lord, "Please, spare us from hearing your voice or witnessing this terrifying fire again. If we do, we shall surely perish." Then the Lord spoke to me, Moses. "They have spoken wisely. Therefore, when I wish to communicate with them, I will select one of their own to be a prophet like you. I will entrust my message to that prophet, who will faithfully convey to the people exactly what I have spoken. Since the message originates from me, anyone who disobeys it will be held accountable before me. However, if I have not spoken, and a prophet falsely claims to bear a message from me, you must execute that impostor. You must also put to death any prophet who dares to claim a message from another god." You may be wondering, how can we discern whether a prophet's message truly originates from the Lord? The answer is simple. If the Lord foretells an event, it will undoubtedly come to pass. But if it does not occur, you will know that the prophet was falsely claiming to speak on behalf of the Lord. Do not fear any prophet whose message does not originate from the Lord. Deuteronomy 19. Soon you will enter the land and wage war against the nations dwelling there. The Lord your God will annihilate them, granting you possession of their lands, towns, and homes. Once you have settled in, you must designate 3 of your towns as cities of refuge. Divide the land into 3 distinct regions. Position one city of refuge near the center of each region, ensuring that it is easily accessible from any location within your land. Then, if someone accidentally kills another person, they can flee to a city of refuge. There, they will find protection from being subjected to the death penalty. However, this provision applies only if you harbored no prior animosity toward the person you unintentionally killed. For example, imagine that you and a friend venture into the forest to chop wood. As you are felling a tree with an axe, the axe head unexpectedly detaches from the handle. It strikes your friend, resulting in his death. In such a circumstance, you can flee to one of the cities of refuge. By seeking refuge there, you can safeguard your life, as you do not deserve to die. This is because you had no intention of harming your friend. However, because a life was taken, the victim's relatives may be consumed by rage. They might even select a male member of their family to pursue you and exact vengeance. If the distance to a city of refuge is excessive, the victim's relative may overtake you and slay you. That is why I command you to establish 3 cities of refuge. O Israel, the Lord your God has pledged that if you faithfully obey his laws and teachings, and if you steadfastly love him, then he will bestow upon you the land he promised to your ancestors. When that day arrives, you must designate 3 additional cities of refuge in the newly acquired territory. You will require them to prevent the unnecessary loss of innocent lives within your land. This is because if innocent individuals are forced to travel excessive distances to reach a city of refuge, you will be held accountable for murder if they perish along the way due to inadequate access to sanctuary in the land that the Lord your God is granting to you. But what if you commit murder? Suppose one of you harbors hatred for a neighbor. You lie in wait in a deserted location. You murder your neighbor and then flee to a city of refuge. If that occurs, the leaders of your town must dispatch messengers to retrieve you from the city of refuge. They will deliver you into the custody of one of the victim's relatives. That relative will then execute you. O Israel, for the well-being of the entire nation, you must execute anyone who commits the heinous crime of murdering an innocent person. Never show mercy to a murderer. In the land that the Lord is giving to you, stones have already been erected to delineate the property lines between fields. You must never tamper with or relocate those stones. Before you can be convicted of a crime, at least 2 witnesses must provide testimony confirming your guilt. If you accuse someone of a crime but appear to be lying, then both you and the accused must be brought before the court, to the designated place where the Lord is worshipped. There, the priests and judges will meticulously investigate to determine whether you are lying or telling the truth. If it is determined that you are lying and the accused is innocent, then you will be punished without mercy. You will receive the identical punishment that the accused would have suffered if found guilty, whether it entails the loss of an eye, a tooth, a hand, a foot, or even your life. O Israel, the heinous crime of bearing false witness in court must be severely punished. When the people witness the consequences that befall those who lie under oath, it will serve as a deterrent, ensuring that all future witnesses will be compelled to speak the truth. Deuteronomy 20. If you are compelled to engage in warfare, you may find yourselves facing an enemy army that surpasses your own in size. They may also possess horses and chariots. But do not be afraid. The Lord your God rescued you from Egypt. He will fight alongside you, ensuring your victory. Before you march into battle, a priest will step forward and address the troops. Soldiers of Israel, lend me your ears. Today, as you prepare to engage in battle, do not allow fear to grip your hearts. Do not be dismayed by the sight of the enemy. The Lord your God will fight alongside you, leading you to triumph in this conflict. Then, the tribal officials will address the troops. If any of you have constructed a new house but have not yet moved in, you are permitted to return home. It is not just that you should perish in battle, only for another to take possession of your new dwelling. If any of you have planted a vineyard but have not yet enjoyed your first grape harvest, you are permitted to return home. It is not just that you should perish in battle, only for another to savor the fruits of your labor. If any of you are engaged to be married, you are permitted to return home and consummate your union. It is not just that you should perish in battle, only for another to marry the woman to whom you are betrothed. Finally, if any of you are afraid, you are permitted to return home. We do not want you to demoralize the other soldiers. Once the officials have completed issuing these directives, they will appoint officers to assume command of the army. Before launching an attack on a town located far from your land, extend an offer of peace to its inhabitants. If they surrender and open their town gates, they shall become your slaves. However, If they reject your peace offering and choose to resist, surround their town and commence your assault. Then, after the Lord empowers you to capture it, slay all the men. Take the women and children as slaves, and seize the livestock and all other items of value. Whenever you capture towns in the land that the Lord your God is granting to you, be certain to slay all the people and animals. He has commanded you to utterly annihilate the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. If you permit them to live, they will seduce you into worshipping their detestable gods. You will then be unfaithful to the Lord. When you are besieging a town, do not chop down its fruit trees, even if you have had the town surrounded for an extended period. Fruit trees are not your adversaries, and they yield sustenance that you can consume. Therefore, refrain from cutting them down. You may require wood to construct ladders and towers, aiding you in scaling the walls and capturing the town. However, utilize only trees that you know are not fruit-bearing. Deuteronomy 21. Suppose the lifeless body of a murder victim is discovered in a field. This would be in the land that the Lord your God is granting to you, and the identity of the murderer remains unknown. The judges and other leaders from the surrounding towns must conduct an investigation to determine which town is closest to the location where the body was found. The leaders from that town will proceed to their cattle herds. They will select a young cow that has never been yoked or put to work. They and some of the priests will lead this cow to a nearby valley. There they will find a stream but no crops. Once they reach the valley, the leaders will break the cow's neck. The priests must be present. This is because the Lord your God has chosen them to be his special servants at the place of worship. The Lord has also chosen them to pronounce blessings upon the people in his name, and to serve as judges in all legal disputes involving property or injury. The town leaders will cleanse their hands over the lifeless body of the cow and declare, "We had no part in this murder, and we have no knowledge of the perpetrator's identity. But because an innocent person has been murdered, we implore you, O Lord, to accept this sacrifice and grant forgiveness to Israel. We are your people, whom you rescued from bondage. Please do not hold this crime against us. If you obey the Lord and perform these rites, he will grant forgiveness to Israel. From time to time, you men will serve as soldiers and embark on campaigns of war. The Lord your God will empower you to vanquish your foes. You will take numerous prisoners. One of these prisoners may be a captivating woman, and you may desire to take her as your wife. But first, you must bring her into your home and instruct her to shave her head. Then she must cut her nails. She must discard her foreign garments and adopt Israelite attire. She will mourn for her parents for a month. Only then may you take her as your wife. Later on, if you find yourself displeased with the woman, you can grant her a divorce and allow her to go free. However, because you have shared intimacy with her as your wife, you are forbidden from selling her as a slave or reducing her to the status of a servant. Imagine a man has 2 wives, and he loves one more than the other. The first son born to either wife is legally recognized as the man's firstborn son, even if the boy's mother is the wife whom the man does not love. Later, when the man is nearing death and is preparing to divide his property, he must bestow a double portion upon his firstborn son. This is simply because he was the first to enter this world. A father and a mother may have a son who is stubborn and rebellious. If the son refuses to obey them, even after repeated punishments, and if he is like that, his parents must drag him to the town gate. This is where the leaders of the town convene for their meetings. The parents will then inform the leaders, "This son of ours is incorrigibly stubborn and perpetually disobedient. He spends all his time indulging in excessive drinking and wild parties." The men of the town will then stone that son to death. This is because they must eradicate the evil that he has introduced into the community. Everyone in Israel will be struck with fear when they hear about how he was punished. If a criminal is executed and you suspend their lifeless body from a tree, you must not allow it to remain hanging there overnight. Bury it on the same day, as the dead body of a criminal will bring God's curse upon the land. The Lord your God is granting this land to you, so do not defile it by leaving the bodies of executed criminals on display. Deuteronomy 22. If you encounter a stray cow or sheep wandering aimlessly, take the animal back to its rightful owner. If the owner lives too far away, or if you are unable to ascertain the owner's identity, take the animal into your home. Care for it until the owner comes searching for it. Then you can return the animal to its rightful owner. That is what you should do if you find anything that belongs to someone else. Employ all your efforts to assist. Whether you discover a cow, a sheep, a donkey, or an article of clothing. Oxen and donkeys transporting heavy loads can stumble and fall. When this happens, they may be unable to rise to their feet without assistance. Therefore, as you travel along the road, extend your help to anyone struggling to assist an ox or donkey in regaining its footing. Women must not impersonate men, and men must not impersonate women. The Lord your God is disgusted by those who engage in such behavior. As you traverse the road, you might encounter a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground. If the mother bird is present in the nest, tending to either her eggs or her fledgling birds, you are permitted to take the baby birds or the eggs. However, you must allow the mother bird to fly free, unharmed. By showing compassion in this manner, the Lord will bless you with a long and prosperous life. If you construct a house, be sure to erect a low wall around the perimeter of the flat roof. By doing so, if someone were to accidentally fall from the roof and suffer fatal injuries, you would not be held accountable. If you cultivate a vineyard, do not plant any other type of fruit tree or crop within its confines. If you choose to disregard this prohibition, you must bring everything you harvest from the vineyard to the designated place of worship. Do not yoke an ox and a donkey together to your plow. When weaving cloth for clothing, you are permitted to use threads crafted from flax or wool, but not both in the same cloth. And when you craft a coat, sew a tassel onto each of the four corners. Suppose a man develops animosity toward his wife soon after they are married. He might spread malicious lies about her, declaring, "I harbor resentment toward this woman. Upon consummating our marriage, I discovered that she was not a virgin." If this occurs, the bride's father and mother must journey to the town gate. There, they must present the town leaders with irrefutable evidence of the woman's virginity. Her father will assert, "I permitted my daughter to marry this man. However, he has since become filled with hatred toward her, falsely accusing her of not being a virgin. But he is mistaken, for here is conclusive proof that she was, in fact, a virgin." Then, the bride's parents will produce the bed sheet from the woman's wedding night for all to see. The town leaders will subject the man to a severe whipping. This is because he falsely accused his bride of not being a virgin. He will be compelled to pay her father 100 pieces of silver, and he will be forever barred from divorcing her. But if the man's accusations prove to be true, and there is no evidence to substantiate that his bride was a virgin, the men of the town will escort the woman to the entrance of her father's house. There they will stone her to death. This is because this woman has introduced evil into your community. By engaging in sexual relations prior to marriage, you must eradicate this evil by killing her. O people of Israel, if a man is apprehended engaging in sexual relations with another man's wife, you must put both of them to death. By doing so, you will cleanse the evil they have perpetrated in Israel. If a man is apprehended in town engaging in sexual relations with a betrothed woman who is not screaming for help, they both must be put to death. The man is guilty of engaging in sexual relations with a married woman. The woman is guilty because she did not cry out for help, even though she was inside a town where people were nearby. Take them both to the town gate and stone them to death. You must purge this evil from your community. Now, consider this. If a betrothed woman is violated out in the countryside, far from any help, only the man shall be put to death. The woman is innocent. Do not punish her. She has done nothing wrong, certainly nothing worthy of death. This crime is akin to murder, for the woman was alone and vulnerable when the man attacked. She may have screamed, but there was no one to hear her cries, no one to come to her aid. What if a woman is not engaged, and a man seduces her, convincing her to sleep with him? If they are caught, they will be forced to marry. He must pay her father 50 pieces of silver as a bride price, and he can never divorce her. A man must never marry a woman who was once married to his father. This would be a profound disgrace to his father's memory. These are the words of Deuteronomy 23. If a man's private parts have been crushed or cut off, he cannot fully belong to the Lord's people. No one born outside of a legal marriage, nor any of their descendants for 10 generations, can fully belong to the Lord's people. No Ammonites or Moabites, nor any of their descendants for 10 generations, can become part of Israel, the Lord's people. This is because when you came out of Egypt, they refused to provide you with food and water. Moreover, they hired Balaam to curse you. But the Lord your God loves you. So he refused to listen to Balaam and turned Balaam's curse into a blessing. Don't even consider signing a peace treaty with Moab or Ammon. But remember your relatives who lived as foreigners in the land of Egypt. Now you must be kind to Egyptians and allow their great-grandchildren to become part of Israel, the Lord's people. When your men go off to fight your enemies, make sure your camp is acceptable to the Lord. For example, if something happens at night that makes a man unclean and unfit for worship, he must go outside the camp and stay there until late afternoon. Then he must take a bath, and at sunset, he can return to camp. Designate a place outside the camp to serve as a toilet area. Be sure to carry a small shovel among your equipment. When you go to the toilet area, use the shovel to dig a hole, and after relieving yourself, bury the waste in the hole. Keep your camp clean of filth and disgusting things, for the Lord is always present in your camp, ready to rescue you and grant you victory over your enemies. But if he sees something disgusting in your camp, he may turn away and leave. When runaway slaves from other countries come to Israel seeking protection, you must not return them to their owners. Instead, allow them to choose which of your towns they want to live in. Do not be cruel to runaway slaves. People of Israel, none of you should ever be temple prostitutes. The Lord your God is disgusted with men and women who are prostitutes of any kind, and he will not accept a gift from them, even if it had been promised to him. When you lend money, food, or anything else to another Israelite, you are not allowed to charge interest. You can charge a foreigner interest, but if you charge your fellow Israelites interest, the Lord your God will not allow you to prosper in the land you are about to inherit. People of Israel, if you make a sacred vow to give a gift to the Lord, then fulfill it as soon as you can. If the Lord has to seek out the gift you promised, you will be guilty of breaking that vow. On the other hand, if you never make a sacred vow, you cannot be guilty of breaking it. Keep whatever promises you make to the Lord, for you are the one who chose to make them. If you enter a vineyard that belongs to someone else, you are permitted to eat as many grapes as you want while you are there, but do not take any with you when you leave. Similarly, if you are in a grain field that belongs to another, you can pick heads of grain and eat the kernels, but do not cut down the stalks of grain and carry them away. These are the laws of Deuteronomy 24. Suppose a woman is divorced by her first husband because he found something disgraceful about her. He wrote out divorce papers, gave them to her, and sent her away. Later, she married another man who then either divorced her in the same way or died. Since she has slept with her second husband, she cannot marry her first husband again. Their marriage would pollute the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and he would be disgusted. If a man and a woman have been married for less than 1 year, he must not be sent off to war or conscripted for forced labor. He must be allowed to stay home for a year and enjoy his time with his wife. When you lend money to someone, you are allowed to keep something of theirs as collateral, ensuring they will repay the loan. But do not take one or both of their millstones, or they may starve. They need these stones for grinding grain into flour to make bread. If you are guilty of kidnapping Israelites and forcing them into slavery, you will be put to death, thereby purging this evil from the community. I have instructed the priests on how to handle cases of leprosy. Follow their instructions precisely and remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam after you left Egypt. When you lend money to someone, you are allowed to keep something of theirs as collateral, guaranteeing the loan will be repaid. But you must not enter their house to retrieve it. Wait outside, and they will bring out the agreed-upon item. Suppose someone is so poor that a coat is the only thing they can offer as collateral on a loan. Do not keep the coat overnight. Instead, return it before sunset so the owner can keep warm and sleep comfortably, and they will ask the Lord to bless you. Then the Lord your God will recognize that you have acted justly. If you hire poor people to work for you, do not withhold their pay, whether they are Israelites or foreigners living in your town. Pay them their wages at the end of each day, because they live in poverty and depend on that money for survival. If you fail to pay them on time, they will complain to the Lord about you, and he will punish you. Parents must not be put to death for crimes committed by their children, and children must not be put to death for crimes committed by their parents. Do not execute anyone for someone else's crime. Ensure that orphans and foreigners are treated fairly. If you lend money to a widow and wish to keep something of hers as collateral, do not take any of her clothes. Remember, you were slaves in Egypt until the Lord your God rescued you. That is why I am giving you these laws. If you forget a stack of harvested grain in the field, do not go back to retrieve it. Leave it for the poor, including foreigners, orphans, and widows, and the Lord will bless you in all your endeavors. When you harvest your olives, do not try to gather every last one. Leave some for the poor. And when you pick your grapes, go over the vines only once. Then allow the poor to have what remains. You lived in poverty as slaves in Egypt until the Lord your God rescued you. That is why I am giving you these laws, according to Deuteronomy 25. Suppose you and another person accuse each other of wrongdoing, and you go to court where the judges find you guilty. If your punishment is to be beaten with a whip, one of the judges will order you to lie down, and you will receive the deserved number of lashes. 40 lashes is the maximum you can receive, because more than that might make other Israelites regard you as worthless. Do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing grain. Suppose two brothers are living on the same property, and one of them dies without having a son to carry on his name. In such a case, his widow must not marry anyone outside the family. Instead, she must marry her late husband's brother, and their first son will be considered the legal son of the deceased man. But what if the brother refuses to marry the widow? She must go to a meeting of the town leaders at the town gate and declare, "My husband died without leaving a son to carry on his name, and my husband's brother refuses to marry me so that I can have a son." The leaders will summon the living brother to the town gate and try to persuade him to marry the widow. But if he remains unwilling and refuses to marry her, she must approach him in the presence of the town leaders. She will remove one of his sandals and spit in his face, proclaiming, "This is what happens to a man who refuses to provide descendants for his dead brother." From that day forward, that man's family will be known as the family of the man whose sandal was removed. If two men are fighting and the wife of one man tries to help her husband by grabbing the other man's private parts, you must cut off her hand. Show no mercy. Do not cheat people by having two sets of weights or measures, one for getting more when you are buying, and another for giving less when you are selling. Use honest and accurate weights and measures, so that the Lord your God will allow you to live a long life in the land he is giving you. The Lord detests anyone who cheats or is dishonest. People of Israel, do you remember what the Amalekites did to you after you came out of Egypt? You were weary, and they attacked those who were lagging behind, demonstrating their utter lack of respect for God. When the Lord your God helps you conquer the land and grants you peace, you must utterly wipe out the Amalekites, so that no one will ever remember they existed. Deuteronomy 26 states, "The Lord is giving you this land, and soon you will conquer it, settle down, and plant crops. When you begin harvesting your crops, place the very first of your harvest into a basket and take it to the place where the Lord your God chooses to be worshipped. Tell the priest, 'Long ago, the Lord our God promised our ancestors that he would give us this land, and today I thank him for keeping his promise and giving me a share of the land.' The priest will take the basket and set it before the Lord's altar. Then, standing there in front of the place of worship, you must pray. 'My ancestor was a wandering Aramean who went to live in Egypt. His family was small then, but they grew great and powerful, becoming a nation of many people. The Egyptians were cruel and showed no pity on us. They mistreated our people and forced us into slavery. We cried out for help to you, the Lord God of our ancestors. You heard our cries. You knew we were in trouble and being abused. Then you terrified the Egyptians with your mighty miracles and rescued us from Egypt. You brought us here and gave us this land, rich with milk and honey. Now, Lord, I bring to you the first fruits of the crops you have given me. After you have said these words, place the basket before the Lord's altar and bow down to worship him. Then you and your family must celebrate with a meal at the place of worship, thanking the Lord your God for granting you such a bountiful harvest. Remember to invite the Levites and the foreigners living in your town. Every year, give 10% of your harvest to the Lord. However, every third year, this 10% must be given to the poor living in your town, including Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows, so that they may have enough to eat. Then you must pray, Our Lord and our God, you have declared that 10% of my harvest is sacred. I have obeyed your command and given it to the poor, including the Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows. I have not eaten any of this sacred food while I was in mourning. In fact, I never touched it when I was unclean, and none of it has been offered as a sacrifice to the spirits of the dead. I have done everything exactly as you commanded, our Lord. Look down from your temple in heaven and bless your people Israel. You promised our ancestors that you would give us this land, rich with milk and honey, and you have kept your promise today. The Lord your God has commanded you today to obey these laws and teachings with all your heart and soul. In response, you have agreed that the Lord will be your God, that you will obey all his laws and teachings, and that you will listen when he speaks to you. Because you have agreed to obey the Lord, he has agreed that you will be his people and that you will belong to him, just as he promised. The Lord created all nations, but he will make you more famous than any of them, and you will receive more praise and honor. You will belong only to the Lord your God, just as he promised, according to Deuteronomy 27. Moses, standing together with the leaders, instructed the people of Israel. Obey all the laws and teachings that I am giving you today. Soon you will enter the land that the Lord your God is giving to you. He is the God your ancestors worshipped, and he has promised that this land is rich with milk and honey. After you cross the Jordan River, go to Mount Ebal. Set up large slabs of stone and cover them with white plaster. Write a copy of these laws on them. At this same place, build an altar for offering sacrifices to the Lord your God. But do not use stones that have been cut with iron tools. Look for stones that can be used without being cut. Then offer sacrifices to please the Lord, burning them completely on the altar. Next, offer sacrifices to ask for the Lord's blessing and serve the meat at a sacred meal where you will celebrate in honor of the Lord. Do not forget to write out a copy of these laws on the stone slabs that you are going to set up. Make sure that the writing is easy to read. Moses, standing together with the priests, said, Israel, be quiet and listen to me. Today you have become the people of the Lord your God, so you must obey his laws and teachings that I am giving you. That same day, Moses gave them the following instructions. After you cross the Jordan River, you will go to Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. The tribes of Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin will go up on Mount Gerizim, where they will bless the people of Israel. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali will go up on Mount Ebal, where they will agree to the curses. The people of the Levi tribe will speak each curse in a loud voice, and the rest of the people will agree to that curse by saying Amen. Here are the curses. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who makes an idol or worships idols, even secretly. The Lord is disgusted with idols. We ask the Lord to put a curse on all who do not show respect for their father and mother. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who moves the rocks that mark property lines. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who tells blind people to go the wrong way. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who keeps the poor from getting justice, whether these poor are foreigners, widows, or orphans. We ask the Lord to put a curse on any man who sleeps with his father's wife. That man has shown no respect for his father's marriage. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who has sex with an animal. We ask the Lord to put a curse on any man who sleeps with his sister, his half-sister, or his mother-in-law. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who commits murder, even when there are no witnesses to the crime. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who accepts money to murder an innocent victim. We ask the Lord to put a curse on anyone who refuses to obey his laws, And so to each of these curses the people will answer, Amen. Deuteronomy 28. Today, I am giving you the laws and teachings of the Lord your God. Always obey them, and the Lord will make Israel the most famous and important nation on earth, and he will bless you in many ways. The Lord will make your businesses and your farms successful. You will have many children. You will harvest large crops. And your herds of cattle and flocks of sheep and goats will produce many young. You will have plenty of bread to eat. The Lord will make you successful in your daily work. The Lord will help you defeat your enemies and make them scatter in all directions. The Lord your God is giving you the land, and he will make sure you are successful in everything you do. Your harvests will be so large that your storehouses will be full if you follow and obey the Lord. He will make you his own special people, just as he promised. Then everyone on earth will know that you belong to the Lord, and they will be afraid of you. The Lord will give you a lot of children and make sure that your animals give birth to many young. The Lord promised your ancestors that this land would be yours, and he will make it produce large crops for you. The Lord will open the storehouses of the skies, where he keeps the rain, and he will send rain on your land at just the right times. He will make you successful in everything you do. You will have plenty of money to lend to other nations, but you won't need to borrow any yourself. Obey the laws and teachings that I'm giving you today, and the Lord your God will make Israel a leader among the nations, and not a follower. Israel will be wealthy and powerful, not poor and weak, but you must not reject any of his laws and teachings or worship other gods. Israel, today I am giving you the laws and teachings of the Lord your God, and if you don't obey them all, he will put many curses on you. Your businesses and farms will fail. You won't have enough bread to eat. You'll have only a few children. Your crops will be small. And your herds of cattle and flocks of sheep and goats won't produce many young. The Lord will make you fail in everything you do. No matter what you try to accomplish, the Lord will confuse you, and you will feel his anger. You won't last long, and you may even meet with disaster, all because you rejected the Lord. The Lord will send terrible diseases to attack you, and you will never be well again. You will suffer with burning fever and swelling and pain until you die, somewhere in the land that you captured. The Lord will make the sky overhead seem like a bronze roof that keeps out the rain, and the ground under your feet will become as hard as iron. Your crops will be scorched by the hot east wind or ruined by mildew. He will send dust and sandstorms instead of rain, and you will be wiped out. The Lord will let you be defeated by your enemies, and you will scatter in all directions. You will be a horrible sight for the other nations to see, and no one will disturb the birds and wild animals while they eat your dead bodies. The Lord will make you suffer with diseases that will cause oozing sores or crusty itchy patches on your skin or boils like the ones that are common in Egypt, and there will be no cure for you. You will become insane and go blind. The Lord will make you so confused that even in bright sunshine, you will have to feel your way around like a blind person who cannot tell day from night. For the rest of your life, people will beat and rob you, and no one will be able to stop them. A man will be engaged to a woman, but before they can get married, she will be raped by enemy soldiers. Some of you will build houses but never get to live in them. If you plant a vineyard, you won't be around long enough to enjoy the first harvest. Your cattle will be killed while you watch, but you won't get to eat any of the meat. Your donkeys and sheep will be stolen from you, and no one will be around to force your enemies to give them back. Your sons and daughters will be dragged off to a foreign country while you stand there helpless, and even if you watch for them until you go blind, you will never see them again. You will work hard on your farms, but everything you harvest will be eaten by foreigners, who will mistreat you and abuse you for the rest of your life. What you see will be so horrible that you will go insane, and the Lord will punish you from head to toe with boils that never heal. The Lord will let you and your king be taken captive to a country that you and your ancestors have never heard of, and there you will have to worship idols made of wood and stone. People of nearby countries will shudder when they see your terrible troubles, but they will still make fun of you. You will plant a lot of seed but gather a small harvest because the locusts will eat your crops. You will plant vineyards and work hard at taking care of them, but you won't gather any grapes, much less get any wine, and the vines themselves will be eaten by worms. Even if your olive trees grow everywhere in your country, The olives will fall off before they are ready, and there won't be enough olive oil for combing your hair. Even your infant sons and daughters will be taken as prisoners of war. Locusts will eat your crops and strip your trees of leaves and fruit. Foreigners in your towns will become wealthy and powerful, while you become poor and powerless. You will be so short of money that you will have to borrow from those foreigners. They will be the leaders in the community, and you will be the followers. Israel, if you don't obey the laws and teachings that the Lord your God is giving you, He will send these curses to chase, attack, and destroy you. Then everyone will look at you and your descendants and realize that the Lord has placed you under a curse. If the Lord makes you wealthy but you don't joyfully worship and honor Him, He will send enemies to attack you and make you their slaves. Then you will live in poverty with nothing to eat, drink, or wear, and your owners will work you to death. Foreigners who speak a strange language will be sent to attack you without warning, just like an eagle swooping down. They won't show any mercy, and they will have no respect for old people or pity for children. They will take your cattle, sheep, goats, grain, wine, and olive oil, then leave you to starve all over the land that the Lord your God gave you. The enemy army will surround your towns. You may feel safe inside your town walls, but the enemy will tear them down while you wait in horror. Finally, you will get so hungry that you will eat the sons and daughters that the Lord gave you. Because of hunger, a man who had been gentle and kind will eat his own children and refuse to share the meal with his brother or wife or with his other children. A woman may have grown up in such luxury that she never had to put a foot on the ground, but times will be so bad that she will secretly eat both her newborn baby and the afterbirth without sharing any with her husband or her other children. You must obey everything in the book of God's law, because if you don't respect the Lord, He will punish you and your descendants with incurable diseases like those you were so afraid of in Egypt. Remember, if the Lord decides to destroy your nation, He can use any disease or disaster, not just the ones written in the book of God's law. There are as many of you now as the stars in the sky, but if you disobey the Lord your God, only a few of you will be left. The Lord is happy to make you successful and to make your nation grow while you conquer the land. But if you disobey Him, He will be just as happy to pull you up by your roots. Those of you that survive will be scattered to every nation on earth, and you will have to worship stone and wood idols that never helped you or your ancestors. You will be restless, always longing for home, but never able to return. You will live in constant fear of death. Each morning you will wake up to such terrible sights that you will say, "I wish it were night." But at night you will be terrified and say, "I wish it would day." I told you never to go back to Egypt, but now the Lord Himself will load you on ships and send you back. Then you will even try to sell yourselves as slaves, but no one will be interested. Deuteronomy 28 was a long, sobering litany of blessings and curses, a stark reminder of the covenant the Israelites had entered with the Almighty. The blessings painted a vivid picture of prosperity and divine favor, abundant harvests, thriving businesses, protection from enemies, and a place of honor among nations. It was a promise of utopia, conditional upon unwavering obedience to God's laws. Then came the chilling counterpoint, a litany of curses that detailed the horrifying consequences of disobedience. Famine, disease, defeat in battle, societal collapse, and exile were just some of the torments that awaited those who turned away from God. It wasn't just a matter of individual misfortune. The curses depicted a systematic unraveling of the entire nation, a descent into utter devastation. The choice was laid bare before them: a path of righteousness leading to life and abundance, or a path of rebellion leading to ruin and despair. And with each curse, a resounding amen echoed through the assembly, a solemn acknowledgement of the consequences they faced. Deuteronomy 29. So Moses finished telling the Israelites what they had to do in order to keep the agreement the Lord was making with them in Moab, which was in addition to the one the Lord had made with them at Mount Sinai. Moses called the nation of Israel together and told them, "When you were in Egypt, you saw the Lord perform great miracles that caused trouble for the king, his officials, and everyone else in the country. He has even told you for 40 years, 'I, the Lord, led you through the desert, but your clothes and your sandals didn't wear out, and I gave you special food. I did these things so you would realize that I am your God. But the Lord must give you a change of heart before you truly understand what you have seen and heard. When we first camped here, King Sihon of Heshbon and King Arg of Bayan attacked, but we defeated them. Then we captured their land and divided it among the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and East Manasseh. Israel, the Lord has made an agreement with you, and if you keep your part, you will be successful in everything you do. Today, everyone in our nation is standing here in the Lord's presence, including leaders and officials, parents and children, and even those foreigners who cut wood and carry water for us. We are at this place of worship to promise that we will keep our part of the agreement with the Lord our God. In this agreement, the Lord promised that you would be his people, and that he would be your God. He first made this promise to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and today the Lord is making the same promise to you. But it isn't just for you, it is also for your descendants. When we lived in Egypt, you saw the Egyptians worship disgusting idols of wood, stone, silver, and gold. Then, as we traveled through other nations, you saw those people worship other disgusting idols. So make sure that everyone in your tribe remains faithful to the Lord and never starts worshiping gods of other nations. If even one of you worships idols, you will be like the root of a plant that produces bitter poisonous fruit. You may be an Israelite and know all about the Lord's agreement with us, but he won't bless you if you rebel against him. You may think you can get away with it, but you will cause the rest of Israel to be punished along with you. The Lord will be furious, and instead of forgiving you, he will separate you from the other tribes. Then he will destroy you by piling on you all the curses in the book of God's law, and you will be forgotten forever. The Lord will strike your country with diseases and disasters. Your descendants and foreigners from distant countries will see that your land has become a scorching desert of salt and sulfur where nothing is planted, nothing sprouts, and nothing grows. It will be as lifeless as the land around the cities of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Seboim after the Lord became angry and destroyed them. People from other nations will ask, "Why did the Lord destroy this country? Why was he so furious?" And they will be given this answer: our ancestors worshipped the Lord, but after he brought them out of Egypt and made an agreement with them, they rejected the agreement and decided to worship gods that had never helped them. The Lord had forbidden Israel to worship these gods, and so he became furious and punished the land with all the curses in the book of God's law. Then he pulled up Israel by the roots and tossed them into a foreign country where they still are today. The Lord our God hasn't explained the present or the future, but he has commanded us to obey the laws he gave to us and our descendants. As Moses continued, his voice grew more earnest. His eyes sweeping over the multitude gathered before him. He recalled the signs and wonders performed in Egypt, the miraculous provision in the wilderness, and the victories granted against their enemies. Yet, he knew that outward obedience was not enough. True allegiance required a transformation of the heart. The Lord must give you a change of heart, he emphasized, before you truly understand what you have seen and heard. He warned against the insidious allure of idolatry, reminding them of the detestable practices they had witnessed in Egypt and among the surrounding nations. He painted a vivid picture of the devastating consequences that would befall those who succumbed to such wickedness, not only upon themselves but upon the entire community. If even one of you worships idols, Moses declared, you will be like the root of a plant that produces bitter poisonous fruit. Deuteronomy 30. I have told you everything the Lord your God will do for you, and I've also told you the curses he will put on you if you reject him. He will scatter you in faraway countries, but when you realize that he is punishing you, return to him with all your heart and soul, and start obeying the commands I have given to you today. Then he will stop punishing you and treat you with kindness. He may have scattered you to the farthest countries on earth, but he will bring you back to the land that had belonged to your ancestors and make you even more successful and powerful than they ever were. You and your descendants are stubborn, but the Lord will make you willing to obey him and love him with all your heart and soul, and you will enjoy a long life. Then the Lord your God will remove the curses from you and put them on those enemies who hate and attack you. You will again obey the laws and teachings of the Lord, and he will bless you with many children, large herds and flocks, and abundant crops. The Lord will be happy to do good things for you, just as he did for your ancestors. But you must decide once and for all to worship him with all your heart and soul, and to obey everything in the book of God's law. You know God's laws, and it isn't impossible to obey them. His commands aren't in heaven, so you can't excuse yourselves by saying, "How can we obey the Lord's commands? They're in heaven and no one can go up to get them, then bring them down and explain them to us?" And you can't say, "How can we obey the Lord's commands? They're across the sea and someone must go across, then bring them back and explain them to us." No, these commands are nearby and you know them by heart. All you have to do is obey. Today I am giving you a choice. You can choose life and success. You are about to cross the Jordan River and take the land that he is giving you. If you obey him, you will live and become successful and powerful. On the other hand, you might choose to disobey the Lord and reject him, so I'm warning you that if you bow down and worship other gods, you won't have long to live. Right now I call the sky and the earth to be witnesses that I am offering you this choice. Will you choose for the Lord to make you prosperous and give you a long life, or will he put you under a curse and kill you? Life, be completely faithful to the Lord your God, love him, and do whatever he tells you. The Lord is the only one who can give life, and he will let you live a long time in the land that he promised to your ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Deuteronomy 30 was a message of hope and restoration. Even after facing the consequences of their disobedience, the Israelites were offered a path back to God's favor. It was a message of repentance, a call to return to him with all their heart and soul. Moses spoke of a future where the Lord would gather them from the farthest corners of the earth, restore them to their ancestral land, and bless them with even greater prosperity than before. He emphasized that the commands of God were not beyond their reach, not hidden in the heavens or across the seas, but readily accessible to all who sought him. No, these commands are nearby and you know them by heart. All you have to do is obey, he urged. The choice was theirs: to embrace life and blessing by turning back to God, or to face death and destruction by continuing in their rebellion. Moses called heaven and earth as witnesses to the choice he had set before them, urging them to choose life, to be completely faithful to the Lord, to love him, and to do whatever he commanded. Deuteronomy 31. Moses again spoke to the whole nation of Israel. I am 120 years old, and I am no longer able to be your leader. And besides that, the Lord your God has told me that he won't let me cross the Jordan River, but he has promised that he and Joshua will lead you across the Jordan to attack the nations that live on the other side. The Lord will destroy those nations just as he destroyed Sihon and Og, those two Amorite kings. Just remember, whenever you capture a place, kill everyone who lives there. Be brave and strong, don't be afraid of the nations on the other side of the Jordan. The Lord your God will always be at your side and he will never abandon you. Then Moses called Joshua up in front of the crowd and said, Joshua, be brave and strong as you lead these. As Moses prepared to relinquish his leadership, his heart was filled with a mix of emotions. He had guided the Israelites through 40 years of trials and tribulations, leading them out of slavery in Egypt and through the wilderness to the borders of the Promised Land. Yet, he was denied the privilege of entering the land himself. Despite his disappointment, Moses remained steadfast in his commitment to God's plan. He assured the people that the Lord would be with them, leading them to victory over their enemies. He then turned to Joshua, the man chosen to succeed him, and charged him with courage and strength. Joshua, be brave and strong, Moses declared. As you lead these people into the land the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them, the Lord's promise fulfilled, dividing the land and heeding the law. Moses reminded the people that the time had come to inherit the land promised to their ancestors. The Lord made a promise long ago to Israel's ancestors that this land would someday belong to Israel. That time has now come, and you must divide up the land among the people. He assured them of divine guidance. The Lord will lead you into the land. He will always be with you and help you, so don't ever be afraid of your enemies. Moses meticulously documented the laws and teachings, entrusting them to the priests and leaders. Moses wrote down all of these laws and teachings and gave them to the priests and the leaders of Israel. These priests, descendants of Levi, were the custodians of the sacred chest, the tangible symbol of the Lord's presence. The priests were from the Levi tribe, and they carried the sacred chest that belonged to the Lord. Moses then outlined a crucial annual observance. Moses told these priests and leaders, Each year the Israelites must come together to celebrate the Festival of Shelters at the place where the Lord chooses to be worshipped. You must read these laws and teachings to the people at the festival. This festival served as a reminder of God's provision and a time for communal reaffirmation of their commitment to His laws. Further, every seventh year, during the year of debt remission, the entire community was to gather. Every seventh year, the year when loans do not need to be repaid, everyone must come, men, women, children, and even the foreigners who live in your towns. And each new generation will listen and learn to worship the Lord their God with fear and trembling, and to do exactly what is said. The inclusion of all, regardless of social standing, emphasized the universal importance of knowing and obeying God's law. This ensured the transmission of faith and obedience across generations. In God's law, the Lord told Moses, "You will soon die, so bring Joshua to the sacred tent, and I will appoint him the leader of Israel." Moses and Joshua then proceeded to the sacred tent, where the Lord manifested His presence. Moses and Joshua went to the sacred tent, and the Lord appeared in a thick cloud right over the entrance to the tent. The Lord addressed Moses, revealing a somber prophecy. The Lord said, "Moses, you will soon die, but Israel is going into a land where other gods are worshipped, and Israel will reject me and start worshipping these gods. The people will break the agreement I made with them, and I will be so furious that I will abandon them and ignore their prayers. I will send disasters and suffering that will nearly wipe them out." He foretold a period of apostasy and divine judgment. Finally, they will realize that the disasters happened because I abandoned them. They will pray to me, but I will ignore them because they were evil and started worshiping other gods. To mitigate the coming crisis, the Lord instructed Moses and Joshua to compose a song. "Moses and Joshua, I am going to give you the words to a new song. Write them down and teach the song to the Israelites. If they learn it, they will know what I want them to do, and so they will have no excuse for not obeying me." This song would serve as a constant reminder of their covenant obligations. "I am bringing them into the land that I promised their ancestors. It is a land rich with milk and honey, and the Israelites will have more than enough food to eat, but they will get fat and turn their backs on me and start worshiping other gods." The Lord foresaw their future rebellion and its consequences. "The Israelites will reject me and break the agreement that I made with them. When I punish the Israelites and their descendants with suffering and disasters, I will remind them that they know the words to this song, so they have no excuse for not obeying me." Despite knowing their future failings, the Lord remained committed to His promise. "I will give them the land that I promised, but I know the way they are going to live." Without delay, Moses recorded the song and taught it to the Israelites. Later on, Moses wrote down the words to the song right away, and he taught it to the Israelites. The Lord then reassured Joshua, bolstering him for the daunting task ahead. The Lord told Joshua, "Be brave and strong. I will help you lead the people of Israel into the land that I have promised them." Moses meticulously transcribed all the laws and teachings into a book. Moses wrote down all these laws and teachings in a book. He entrusted this book to the Levites, the bearers of the sacred chest. Then he went to the Levites who carried the sacred chest and said, "This is the book of God's law. Keep it beside the sacred chest that holds the agreement the Lord your God made with Israel." This book served as a perpetual witness against their future transgressions. This book is proof that you know what the Lord wants you to do. I know how stubborn and rebellious you and the rest of the Israelites are. You have rebelled against the Lord while I have been alive, and it will only get worse after I am gone. In anticipation of his imminent departure, Moses convened a gathering of tribal leaders and officials. "So call together the leaders and officials of the tribes of Israel. I will bring this book and read every word of it to you, and I will call the sky and the earth as witnesses that all of you know what you are supposed to do." He delivered a final, sobering warning. "I am going to die soon, and I know that in the future you will stop caring about what is right and what is wrong, and so you will disobey the Lord and stop living the way I told you to live. The Lord who will be angry and terrible things will happen to you." Moses summoned all of Israel to impart the words of the song, a divine testament to their covenant obligations. Moses called a meeting of all the people of Israel, so he could teach them the words to the song that the Lord had given him, and here are the words. Deuteronomy 32. A song of warning and hope. Earth and sky, listen to what I say. Israel, I will teach you. My words will be like gentle rain on tender young plants or like dew on the grass. Join with me in praising the wonderful name of the Lord our God. The Lord is a mighty rock, and he never does wrong. God can always be trusted to bring justice, but you lie and cheat and are unfaithful to him. You have disgraced yourselves and are no longer worthy to be his children. Israel, the Lord is your Father, the one who created you, but you repaid him by being foolish. Think about past generations. Ask your parents or any of your elders. They will tell you that God Most High gave land to every nation. He assigned a guardian angel to each of them, but the Lord himself takes care of Israel. Israel, the Lord discovered you in a barren desert filled with howling winds. God became your fortress, protecting you as though you were his own eyes. The Lord was like an eagle teaching its young to fly, always ready to swoop down and catch them on its back. Israel, the Lord led you, and without the aid of a foreign god, he helped you capture the land. Your fields were rich with grain. Olive trees grew in your stony soil, and honey was found among the rocks. Your flocks and herds produced milk and yogurt, and you got choice meat from your sheep and goats that grazed in Bashan. Your wheat was the finest, and you drank the best wine. Israel, you grew fat and rebelled against God, your Creator. You rejected the mighty rock, your only place of safety. You made God jealous and angry by worshipping disgusting idols and foreign gods. You offered sacrifices to demons, those useless gods that never helped you, new gods that your ancestors never worshipped. You turned away from God, your Creator. You forgot the mighty rock, the source of your life. You were the Lord's children, but you made him angry. Then he rejected you and said, "You are unfaithful and can't be trusted, so I won't answer your prayers. I'll just watch and see what happens to you. You worship worthless idols and made me jealous and angry. Now I will send a cruel and worthless nation to make you jealous and angry. My people, I will breathe out fire that sends you down to the world of the dead. It will scorch your farmlands and burn deep down under the mountains. I'll send disaster after disaster to strike you like arrows. You'll be struck by starvation and deadly diseases, by the fangs of wild animals and poisonous snakes. Young and old alike will be killed in the streets and terrified at home. I wanted to scatter you so no one would remember that you had ever lived, but I dreaded the sound of your enemies saying, 'We defeated Israel with no help from the Lord.' People of Israel, that's what the Lord has said to you. But you don't have good sense and you never listen to advice. If you did, you could see where you are headed. How could one enemy soldier chase 1,000 of Israel's troops? Or how could 2 of theirs pursue 10,000 of ours? It can only happen if the Lord stops protecting Israel and lets the enemy win. Even our enemies know that only our God is a mighty rock. Our enemies are grapevines rooted in the fields of Sodom and Gomorrah. The grapes they produce are full of bitter poison. Their wine is more deadly than cobra venom. But the Lord has written a list of their sins and locked it in his vault. Soon our enemies will get what they deserve. Suddenly they will slip and total disaster will quickly follow. When only a few of the Lord's people remain, when their strength is gone and some of them are slaves, the Lord will feel sorry for them and give them justice. But first the Lord will say, "You ran for safety to other gods. Couldn't they help you? You offered them wine and your best sacrifices. Can't those gods help you now or give you protection? Don't you understand I am the only God? There are no others. I am the one who takes life and gives it again. I punished you with suffering, but now I will heal you and nothing can stop me. I make this solemn promise just as I live forever. I will take revenge on my hateful enemies. I will sharpen my sword and let it flash like lightning. My arrows will get drunk on enemy blood. My sword will taste the flesh and the blood of the enemy. It will kill prisoners and cut off the heads of their leaders. Tell the heavens to celebrate and all gods to bow down to the Lord, because he will take revenge on those hateful enemies who killed his people. He will forgive the sins of Israel and purify their land." Moses and Joshua recited the song before the assembled Israelites, serving as a solemn declaration of their history, present responsibilities, and future destiny. Moses spoke the words of the song so that all the Israelites could hear, and Joshua helped him. When Moses had finished, he said, "Always remember this song I have taught you today, and let it be a warning that you must teach your children to obey everything written in the book of God's law." He concluded with a profound exhortation. The law isn't empty words. It can give you a long life in the land that you are going to take. Later that day, the Lord instructed Moses to ascend Mount Nebo. Later that day the Lord said to Moses, "Go up into the Abarim mountain range, here in Moab across the Jordan River Valley from Jericho, and when you reach the top of Mount Nebo you will be able to see the land of Canaan which I am giving to Israel." From this vantage point, he would be granted a final glimpse of the promised land before his death. "Then you will die and be buried on the mountaintop just as your brother Aaron died and was buried on Mount Hor. Both of you were unfaithful to me at Meribah spring near Kadesh in the Zin desert." The Lord reminded Moses of his past transgression. "I am God, but there in front of the Israelites you did not treat me with the honor and respect I deserve, so I will give the land to the people of Israel, but you will only get to see it from a distance." Deuteronomy 33, Moses' blessing upon the tribes. Moses, as a prophet of God, pronounced blessings upon each tribe of Israel before his passing. Moses was a prophet, and before he died, he blessed the tribes of Israel by saying, "The Lord came from Mount Sinai. From Edom he gave light to his people, and his glory was shining from Mount Paran. Thousands of his warriors were with him, and fire was at his right hand. The Lord loves the tribes of Israel, and he protects his people. They listen to his words and worship at his feet. I called a meeting of the tribes of Israel and gave you God's law. Then you and your leaders made the Lord your king. Tribe of Reuben, you will live even though your tribe will always be small. The Lord will listen to you, tribe of Judah, as you beg to come safely home. You fought your enemies alone. Now the Lord will help you. At Massah and Meribah spring the Lord tested you, tribe of Levi. You are faithful, and so the priesthood belongs to the Levi tribe. Protecting Israel's agreement with the Lord was more important to you than the life of your father or mother or brothers or sisters or your own children. You teach God's laws to Israel, and at the place of worship you offer sacrifices and burn incense. I pray that the Lord will bless everything you do and make you strong enough to crush your enemies. The Lord Most High loves you, tribe of Benjamin. He will live among your hills and protect you. Descendants of Joseph, the Lord will bless you with precious water from deep wells and with dew from the sky. Month by month your fruit will ripen in the sunshine. You will have a rich harvest from the slopes of the ancient hills. The Lord, who appeared in the burning bush, wants to give you the best the land can produce, and it will be a princely crown on Joseph's head. The armies of Ephraim and Manasseh are majestic and fierce like a bull or a wild ox. They will run their spears through faraway nations. Be happy, Zebulun, as your boat sets sail. Be happy, Issachar, in your tent. The sea will make you wealthy, and from the sandy beach you will get treasure. So invite the other tribes to celebrate with you and offer sacrifices to God. Tribe of Gad, the Lord will bless you with more land, so shout his praises. Your tribe is like a lion ripping up its victim. Your leaders met together and chose the best land for your tribe, but you obeyed the Lord and helped the other tribes. Tribe of Dan, you are like a lion cub startled by a snake. The Lord is pleased with you, people of Naphtali. He will bless you and give you the land to the west and the south. The Lord's greatest blessing is for you, tribe of Asher. You will be the favorite of all the other tribes. You will be rich with olive oil and have strong town gates with bronze and iron boats. Your people will be powerful for as long as they live. Israel, no other God is like ours. The clouds are his chariot as he rides across the skies to come and help us. The eternal God is our hiding place. He carries us in his arms. When God tells you to destroy your enemies, he will make them run. Israel, you will live in safety. Your enemies will be gone. The dew will fall from the sky, and you will have plenty of grain and wine. The Lord has rescued you and given you more blessings than any other nation. He protects you like a shield and is your majestic sword. Your enemies will bow in fear, and you will trample on their backs. Deuteronomy 34. The death of Moses. Sometime later Moses left the lowlands of Moab. He went up Mount Pisgah to the peak of Mount Nebo, which is across the Jordan River from Jericho. The Lord showed him all the land as far north as Gilead and the town of Dan. He was granted a panoramic vision of the future inheritance of the tribes. He let Moses see the territories that would soon belong to the tribes of Naphtali, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Judah, as far west as the Mediterranean Sea. The Lord displayed the full extent of the promised land. The Lord also showed him the land in the south from the valley near the town of Jericho, known as the city of palm trees, down to the town of Zor. The Lord affirmed his covenant promise to Moses. The Lord said, "Moses, this is the land I was talking about when I solemnly promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that I would give land to their descendants. I have let you see it, but you will not cross the Jordan and go in." There, on Mount Nebo, Moses, the servant of the Lord, breathed his last. And so Moses, the Lord's servant, died there in Moab just as the Lord had said. The Lord himself performed the burial. The Lord buried him in a valley near the town of Beth Peor, but even today no one knows exactly where. Despite his advanced age, Moses remained strong and vibrant until the end. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyesight was still good, and his body was strong. The Israelites mourned deeply for their leader. The people of Israel stayed in the lowlands of Moab, where they mourned and grieved 30 days for Moses, as was their custom. Joshua assumed leadership, empowered by the laying on of hands and divine wisdom. Before Moses died, he had placed his hands on Joshua, and the Lord had given Joshua wisdom. The Israelites paid attention to what Joshua said and obeyed the commands that the Lord had given Moses. The era of Moses concluded, leaving an unparalleled legacy of divine encounter and miraculous power. There has never again been a prophet in Israel like Moses. The Lord spoke face to face with him and sent him to perform powerful miracles in the presence of the king of Egypt and his entire nation. His deeds stood as a testament to God's unwavering power and faithfulness. No one else has ever had the power to do such great things as Moses did for everyone to see.